Hey there, Internet. I'm Annie.
I'm Kit.
And I'm Mac.
And this is I Will Fight You, a podcast we've been turning opinion into stone-cold facts since 1986. Mackenzie, what is today's fact?
It keeps happening! Romeo and Juliet, baby!
We're doing it again!
We're just doing it again.
We're doing it again!
This might be the only thing we do in February from this point out.
You enjoyed it in 2023, we threatened we'd keep doing this, and now here we are, more Romeo and Juliet. Credit goes to Lucas for Romeo and Juliet. That was all his.
Yes, thank you, Lucas.
Thucus.
Thucus.
Bless you, Lucas.
Juliucus.
Anyway, hello.
Hello.
What movies are we all doing, friends?
Last time we did a Romeo and Juliet roundup, someone was like, Annie, you love Stephen Sondheim. Why didn't you do West Side Story? In fact, several people were like that, and I was like, fuck!
You see, Annie forgot.
Here's the thing. I've never seen West Side Story. This was my first time, because Stephen Sondheim didn't write the whole score, but he did write the lyrics to this one. This was his breakout role. So mine is West Side Story, for those of you who don't know. It's a musical retelling of Romeo and Juliet that is placed in the Upper West Side of Manhattan in New York City, which is a conflict between two rival gangs, the white guy Jets, who are all of like Polish and Swedish descent, and then you have the Sharks, who are all Puerto Rican immigrants, which the original production was 1957. You were starting to get a lot more Puerto Ricans who were moving up north into America. Puerto Ricans are citizens, by the way. It's kind of a Commonwealth situation, but they are American citizens. That's not up for debate. The original production, like I said, 1957, music by Leonard Bernstein, one of the greatest composers of his time, lyrics by Stephen fucking Sondheim. He was 25 or 26.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And a book by Arthur Lawrence. It ran for 732 performances before going on tour. Nominated for 6 Tony Awards, including Best Musical in 1958, won 2 of them, and had an even longer running West End production, Revivals International. The 1961 musical film version, which is what I watched, was nominated for 11 Academy Awards, won 10, including Best Picture. Fun fact, this was originally conceived as East Side Story when they were first talking about it, which was, at that point, a conflict between a Jewish family and an Irish Catholic family during the Easter/Passover season on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. And then over time, as they shelved it and took it back out, shelved it, took it back out, the project became West Side Story because there was a rise of juvenile delinquent gangs in the news. This was a new thing happening at the time. Sondheim was approached for the lyrics, but was initially resistant because he wanted to write the full score for his next project. But Oscar Hammerstein of Rodgers and Hammerstein, who was Sondheim's next door neighbor and kind of a surrogate father, was like, Stephen. Like, he was like, you're only going to get better if you work with the best people, and this is Leonard fucking Bernstein, Stephen.
A man who sublimated all of his homosexual feelings into his work, and it turned out that that was the thing he should have been doing.
Stephen!
It worked really well.
It worked so well! God! So I watched West Side Story. I think we talked about this. Mine's actually probably going to be the one that adheres most closely to Romeo and Juliet the play, so I'll probably be going first in turn order. Kit, I think you are up next. What did you watch?
So I watched the 2000 Andrei Berkoviak action film Romeo Must Die, starring Alia and Jet Li, which was like the breakout role in Hollywood for both of them, although Jet Li was already pretty established in Hong Kong cinema.
God, was that really Jet Li's first, like, American breakout? Dang.
Kind of his first American breakout, yeah. It's very much in the style of Hong Kong action films. I'm very on brand picking this one. Corey Yuen doing the fight choreography. Takes place in Oakland, mostly filmed in Vancouver because, yeah, okay. It has a 32% on Rotten Tomatoes, and Roger Ebert gave it 1.5 out of 4 stars.
Huh.
And Mackenzie, what did you pick?
I picked a lovely 2018 film called Little Italy, which is about 2 rival pizzas restaurants dueling and 2 people, technically 4 people, falling in love despite that.
Technically 4?
Technically 4. If we're going about Rotten Tomatoes, it's got a 13% positive on there.
Oh boy.
13? 1-3.
1-3.
I didn't know it went that low.
Richard Roper, he said it's extra cheesy and terrible, but there's a certain comfort in watching these good actors try to sell conversations.
Oh, and people say cheesy in a movie about pizzas. Like, how many do you think they allowed themselves?
Oh, it's extremely culturally inappropriate.
Uh-huh.
There are a lot of racist jokes.
Oh.
One of my favorite things about it is, where do you think Little Italy is?
I mean, probably New York or Chicago. Probably Chicago.
Sorry, did you say Ontario, Canada?
I'm sorry, what?
I did not say Ontario, Canada.
What city in Ontario?
I think it's just Toronto.
Toronto. Canadians don't pronounce the T.
I was kind of hoping it was Chatham.
Not like filmed in Toronto and supposed to be someplace else.
It is just Toronto.
It is just Toronto.
No, it's set in Toronto's quote-unquote Little Italy.
Uh-huh.
Not Chicago.
Not Chicago, not New York, Toronto.
Toronto.
Yeah.
Totally right next to each other.
And for some reason, half the cast have Italian accents.
By the way, if you pronounce the second T in Toronto, people immediately know you're a tourist. Everybody calls it Toronto.
Toronto.
I am a tourist.
That's fine. I mean, tell me about the city that starts with an L in Kentucky. What's it called? Go
There's
on.
a few of those. Lexington, you mean?
No. The one near the Indiana border?
Louisville.
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 You're just saying vowels.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. You always know someone's a stranger because they'll be like, Louisville.
Louisville. God forbid you get a Louisville. Louisville. Louisville Slugger. The baseball bat is called a Louisville Slugger.
Incidentally, Hawaiian pizza invented in Chatham, Ontario.
No shit. So this is not the movie called Pizza My Heart, right?
No, but that is another movie I want to talk about.
That is also about two rival pizza companies.
Okay, so how many Romeo and Juliet adaptations are there about pizza places, is my question.
3, apparently.
Oh, God.
One of them stars Hayden Christensen. You know, Darth Vader.
Oh, God.
Anakin Skywalker.
I don't like sand.
And also Emma Roberts, aka one of the worst actresses to work with, I guess?
Wait, the one that you watched is Hayden Christensen?
Yeah, the one that I watched is Hayden Christensen.
Amazing.
And it gets everywhere.
Pizza My Heart, rather, was no-name actors and made, by a very Christian company, so I desperately want to see that one.
Oh, so they found, the pepperoni and also God.
Yes, probably.
But what kind of Christian? Because if it's a bunch of Italians, it's probably going to be Catholic, but the Catholics don't really make,
The Catholics don't make movies.
I don't know, I've never seen that one. That's Romeo and Three-Liet. Or Ro-Three-O or something.
Ro-Three-O.
We'll workshop
we'll work
that.
on it. We'll workshop it.
We've got a year.
Ro-Three-O is pretty good. Put that in your pocket. So last time
I forgot in my notes, as I actually look at my notes, I forgot that the description on Hoopla, because the only place I could watch it was on Hoopla,
Of course.
that sounds right.
was the directive How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, and Miss Congeniality cooks up this sizzling Romeo and Juliet comedy about two lifelong pals whose romance is threatened by their parents' rival pizzerias.
Sizzling pals.
Sizzling.
Sizzling Romeo and Juliet comedy.
If I had to come up with words to describe both Emma Roberts and Hayden Christensen, I don't think sizzling would be one of them.
Yeah, but pizzas.
Yes, I know.
Pizzas sizzle in the oven.
I don't know that I would describe a pizza as sizzling either.
You know.
Melty?
Pepperoni.
Oh, that's fair.
We should probably move on.
We should probably move on.
So, I believe last time we basically just told you what was happening in what act of Romeo and Juliet, and then we all tried to see how well ours matched up to that.
I've got the summary pulled up if we are ready to get going.
Let's go.
We start with the prologue.
Progolg.
Prologue.
The progolg.
The proggle.
I'm taking this summary from AbsoluteShakespeare.com. I did not write this. Thank you, AbsoluteShakespeare.com. Arguably, Shakespeare's most famous play begins with a prologue, which establishes that this play will be a tragedy and that the children of two feuding families, Romeo of the Montague family and Juliet of the Capulet family, will both love and die in the course of this play. Do either of you have prologues?
Annie, do you have a prologue in West Side Story? I don't remember.
I have an overture.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. That counts.
My movie is, by the way, 2 hours and 30 minutes long, which in 1961, that's wild, but that is the whole damn show, and there was an intermission.
Romeo Must Die does not have a prologue. It does have, like, an opening credits sequence that involves a bunch of guys with guns in a car driving through Oakland. That's about all we got there.
Mine starts with Hayden Christensen and Emma Roberts doing voiceover as we watch their kids' selves and their families be happy together.
Oh no, do they do like a two houses both alike and pizza dignity?
Basically, there's a point where the two of them as children set up firecrackers that have been stuffed into an eggplant and a tomato in front of one of their sleeping grandparents.
In fair Toronto, where we lay our scene.
And it explodes and the kids are like laughing and biking away while Grandpa's like, I'm gonna yell at you two later.
This is exactly what happens when civil blood makes civil hands unclean.
It's a tomato and an eggplant explode.
Yeah, that's exactly what civil blood, civil hands. The tomatoes, they're messy.
They talk about how they were best friends and their families ran one single pizza company that was world renowned, won every competition in Toronto until they were banned for being too good.
Oh, so like Pike Place Chowder.
Yeah, exactly. But then after winning one competition, something went wrong. And now they are two pizza restaurants separated by family, and they're right next to each other.
Two pizzerias, both like in dignity.
It's not. There's not much dignity there. Gotta say.
Yeah, in terms of the dignity available under the circumstances, it's not high.
Toronto, Canada.
Toronto, Canada.
If I'm thinking about like bitter rivalry between factions, I'm definitely thinking of fucking Toronto.
That's where Scott Pilgrim lives.
Yeah, and I'm still mad that they cut the Honest Ed sequence out of Scott Pilgrim the movie.
Yeah.
Act 1. Samson and Gregory, servants to the Capulets, and Abraham and Balthazar, servants to the Montague, start a street fight, which is joined by Benvolio, Montague, and Tybalt, Capulet. Aeschylus, the Prince of Verona, who angrily learns of this fight, declares a death penalty for further feuding between the two families. Romeo, we learn, is lovesick. Rosaline, the object of his affections, will not return his love. His friend Benvolio tells Romeo to look at other girls. Meanwhile, Capulet is keen for Paris to marry his daughter Juliet and plans a party to be held later that night. Romeo and friends decide to turn up uninvited. Romeo, hoping to see Rosaline, whom he still pines for. Lady Capulet discusses the idea of marriage to Paris with Juliet. Juliet keeps her options open. The nurse wishes Juliet every possible happiness. Meanwhile, Mercutio attempts to cheer lovesick Romeo up, telling him to be rough with love if need be. And then at the Capulets' party, Romeo, who's disguised by a mask, falls in love with Juliet on first sight. Capulet stops Tybalt from attacking Romeo at the party, telling him there will be other opportunities. Both Romeo and Juliet learn that they are each enemies of the other's family, and then the choir dramatizes the conflict both Romeo and Juliet feel between their love for one another and their loyalty to their families.
I love that summary is like, Mercutio tries to cheer Romeo up by telling him to be rough at love. Also,
he just goes on a rant.
Have you heard about this fairy bitch?
Have you heard about Queen Mab?
I might be stoned right now.
Listen.
Annie.
Yes.
Does your Act 1 hold up to that?
Okay, so yes, actually, I was actually able to map Act 1 to scenes 1 through 5 from the play, more or less. There's one thing that happens at the very beginning of this movie, which in Blackness, right before the overture, we hear this 3-note whistle that is called the conflict motif or the hate motif that is used almost exclusively with the Jets. I can't really get into this, but Sideways, who I brought up with the Into the Woods and Cats, has a great breakdown of this. So I would go check that out. It's like an 18-minute video. But we open in Manhattan. We find the Jets, who are our Montagues. They're a bunch of white assholes. They're doing a lot of menacing, snapping. We're gonna do this a lot in the show. It works. Trust me. We have a conflict that kind of maps onto the servants of the Montagues and the Capulets, except that it is these gang leaders that are actually meeting up. We have the Sharks, who are led by Bernardo, who is kind of our Tybalt / Lord Capulet, and the Jets, who are led by Riff, who is kind of our Mercutio, Montague, not really a Benvolio, but you know. They harass each other until the cops show up, which is kind of our Prince Aeschylus's Lieutenant Schrenk and Officer Krumke, who very much sides with the Montagues, the Jets, because he's like, oh, you're all just, gosh, you white boys, also I hate you, but also I hate the Puerto Ricans more. So you guys kill each other if you want, but don't do it on my beat. But also, hey, Jets, let's be good. Make nice with the Puerto Ricans. But also, if I catch any more fighting, I'm going to beat the shit out of you, let you rot in jail.
Getting mixed messages from this guy.
Yeah, it's almost like the police can't be trusted. Basically, the Jets have decided that they are racist against the Puerto Ricans, like you do, apparently, because they're a whole bunch of white assholes. So they're basically going to say, like, we're going to push this gang out of our territory forever. We're going to have a war. We need to do a war council where we all agree very civilly to the rules of the conflict. Let's go. But we need lieutenants for this meeting. There's a dance tonight in the gym, which is neutral territory. So we have to go gather our guys together so we can challenge them because Bernardo's going to be there with the Sharks. So Riff is like, I gotta get my lieutenant. I gotta get Tony. Tony is who started the Jets with me, but he's got a job now.
Oh, no.
We have to go convince Tony to come to the dance. Tony says, no, I've got a job.
because of course he does. He's got a job.
He has a job. He works at Doc's candy store. Doc is kind of our friar here. But Riff is like, we're best buddies. Womb to tomb, birth to earth. Which, there were some rewritten lines in the film version due to censorship, like real Hays Code censorship, not like vagina bone censorship. And this is actually one of them. In the stage show, the line is, womb to tomb, sperm to worm.
It's really good.
It's really good, actually. Tony is like, listen, I want to go straight. I have this feeling that there's just something coming. Something great is going to happen. And I've been reaching out for something, waking up in the middle of the night, reaching for something right around the door. It's just around the corner. And Riff is like, hey, maybe it's at the dance. And he's like, maybe it is at the dance. And Tony's like, I'll do it, but I'm going to live to regret this.
Well, I have good news and bad news, Tony.
We meet Maria, who is our Juliet. This is like scene 3-ish, whose best friend is Anita, who is dating her older brother, Bernardo. Maria's like, Anita, please, you're my friend. You're my friend. I love you. Just make the neckline lower. Just 1 inch. Come on. Just one. And Anita's like, no, your brother's not going to let you slut it up at the dance. Because Bernardo is the overprotective older brother of Maria. She has just been brought up from Puerto Rico for like a month, so she's very new to town. And Bernardo is more wise to how things work in America and is very protective of his little sister. There's like kind of a quote unquote arranged marriage, but maybe it's just been like she's been brought up to meet a guy that Bernardo has picked out for her named Chino. He's Paris, I think. She feels absolutely nothing for Chino. She loves this white dress. She wants to fall in love. She has this white dress that Anita has made for her for the dance. She hates it. She says white is for babies. I want a red dress. But then she puts on the dress and she's like, I'm pretty.
Yeah, if you've heard the song I Feel Pretty.
Yeah, wait for that one. Scene 4, we go to the dance. The Jets are here and the Sharks are here. The Jets are kind of being huge dicks. Bernardo arrives with Maria, introduces her to a bunch of his friends. The Jets and Sharks start getting into gangs and fighting, but this chaperone/teacher is like, oh, let's all do a boy-girl dance. A get-together dance. It'll be fine. It is not fine. They do a mambo fight instead. And then in the middle of the mambo fight, Tony arrives, and there's this great sequence where, like, the mambo fight dance sequence pulls away to what would be, like, the back of the stage, if it was on a stage, leaving Tony and Maria in the front of the stage, closer to the audience. Their eyes meet. Everything else fuzzes out. They dance together. They sing. They're instantly in love. It is so cute. And Tony's like, oh, I knew something was going to happen that's never happened before. I met you. Hello. We're in love now. Let's kiss. And then Bernardo punches him and is like, get the hell off my sister.
Whoops.
Yeah. They get pulled away by their respective gangs. Bernardo's like, Chino, take Maria home. And Chino's like, come, Maria. And Tony's like, Maria. Then Riff and Bernardo finally get to talking, and they're like, we're going to go do a war council tonight at Doc's Candy Store at midnight, and no fighting before then. Yes, we are going to go to Doc's Candy Store a lot.
Brief interruption. Does he say Maria in the same way that daffodils was said?
She likes daffodils.
Well, funny you should say.
Oh, just wait till the beginning of Act 2.
Perfect.
That's Act 1 of West Side Story, at least as far as the play structure is concerned.
So, Romeo Must Die. First off, it's a fairly loose adaptation of Romeo and Juliet in a number of ways, but it's also one of those adaptations where, like, it tries to solve the problem of Romeo and Juliet falling in love basically immediately, but also this movie is about adults, by basically stretching out Act 1 and Act 2 over most of the movie and then cramming Acts 3, 4, and 5 into, like, the last, 45 minutes, half an hour.
But teenagers are dumb and horny.
Because teenagers are dumb and horny, but these are people in their 20s who are slightly less dumb and horny. For Act 1 of this, which is quite long, easily the first hour of the movie here. So we've got the most boring nightclub of all time. Like, it's supposed to be like this cool, interesting underground casino type place, but everyone's just kind of like dancing in a very lackluster fashion.
Is there a clown juggling?
I was about to ask, because
juggling.
if there's one thing I've learned is that in order to make a nightclub really pop, you need a clown.
Maybe that's why this nightclub sucks, is that there's no clown juggling.
Mackenzie, I appreciate that you were also thinking about a clown.
We are nothing if not consistent. So in this shitty nightclub, you've got this guy called Po Singh, who is hanging out with like one girl under his arm, and then like there appears to be two more lady friends of his who are making out with each other. We got a flash of nipple because it's like 2000, and that's what you do to make movies edgy in 2000, I guess.
We love seeing a little bit of titty.
Poe very notably has this very big, obnoxious cane with like an angel lady on it. Remember that. It becomes important later, but he's hanging out in this nightclub. Notably, he and his entourage are basically the only Chinese people in here because the club is black-owned, although most of the patrons are not black. But one of the nightclub employees rolls up to Poe's table and like is basically saying, hey, you can't be here, and I'm going to politely kick you out before my friends more angrily kick you out in a way that starts some shit. Poe is not amenable to this, and then a bunch of guys who work for Poe's dad, i.e. more Chinese gangster dudes, roll up to the club and start a huge fight, and because this is based on Hong Kong action movies, basically everybody knows martial arts, so a bunch of the guys who work at the nightclub also square up and like... and like martial arts poses.
I love it when everybody knows martial arts.
Yeah, and we get to see them fight each other for a bit before fucking DMX, the rapper, X gonna give it to you,
What?
shows up with machine guns and yells, guns don't kill people, people kill people.
What?
And then kicks anyone who's not black out of the club, which is actually most of the clientele as well as the Triad guys.
Is this the Aeschylus?
I'm not sure what role DMX is supposed, because there's another character who is kind of Aeschylus, and also DMX is kind of Tybalt. We'll get into this later.
Interesting.
Yes, but DMX is here. He has a machine gun.
I choose to believe that DMX is as Aeschylus the Prince.
Yes.
DMX-Aeschylus.
They get kicked out. Kai, who is like the leader of the guys who showed up to back up Poe, gets into a fight with Poe, where Poe is like, hey, why'd you roll up and do that? And Kai is like, hey, it's my job to look out for you. I work for your dad. Poe gets in a snit and drives off. Kai and his guys also leave. As they're leaving, another black guy who we don't know yet, but this is Colin O'Day, shows up. And then it just basically cuts from him arriving at the nightclub to a kid on a paper route who finds Poe's dead body hanging from a telephone pole.
Oh, whoops.
Whoops. F***ing whoops. That's going to be a problem later. So we cut from that to meet our Montague, who is a guy named Chu Sing, who is Poe's dad. He's also the leader of a Chinese crime syndicate in Oakland. Wikipedia calls these guys triad. I don't think the word triad is ever said in this movie, but it's strongly implied. So Kai gets the phone call that Poe is dead and goes and tells Chu this, and you see like this devastation on his face as he finds this out. And then we cut to the introduction of our Capulet, who is a guy named Isaac O'Day, Colin's dad. He is played by Delroy Lindo, who you may remember as Dr. Brazelton from The Core.
What?
What?
I didn't pick this movie because of that. It was just a happy. I was like, where do I know that guy from? And I looked him up and I was like, oh, that's Braz.
Well, there you go.
And he's doing kind of the same thing where he's like this solemn and like careful and methodical type dude. But he also has his right-hand man, Mac, who is kind of Paris. The roles don't map very cleanly here. But Isaac talks a bit about how he's got this big business deal coming up before he gets the phone call and finds out that Poe is dead, i.e. his rival's son is dead. And Isaac is immediately like, we got to make sure that Chu knows that none of our guys did this or this is going to go extremely bad very quickly. So he gets Mac to set up a meeting with Chu Sing. And in the meantime, we go to a prison in Hong Kong where the camera follows this new guy showing up to the prison. And then he goes to the mess. He sidles up to another prisoner who we see from the back and whispers something in his ear. And then the camera swings around and it's Jet Li, everybody.
Hooray!
This is apparently the news that Poe is dead because Jet Li proceeds just to immediately lose it on a bunch of people. He gets sent to the pain box where they string him up by 1 foot, and then he proceeds to beat the shit out of everybody in that room while strung up by 1 foot. It's great. There is an x-ray view of a guy's arm getting broken. The x-ray shots of like people getting injured horribly is used a total of 3 times in the movie. I feel like it should be used either more or less.
Nice.
Then Jet Li steals a uniform and walks out of the prison, implying that he could have just walked out of this prison basically anytime he wanted. Meanwhile, we've got Isaac and Chu meeting at an airport because there are metal detectors, and this is before 9/11 where you could just hang out in an airport without a ticket. So Isaac tries to convince Chu that, hey, nobody on my side killed your son. Chu says, oh, okay, if you're sure. Our business dealings can continue.
What business?
Business dealings.
What business?
Business.
Top men.
Isaac then tells Mac to put a protective detail on his daughter, Trish, and we cut to Trish, who is played by Alia, and she runs some kind of like coffee shop, clothing store, place where kids can hang out instead of getting into trouble, I guess. She apparently wants nothing to do with her dad's business and is trying to live a life independent of him. She decides to go out shopping on her lunch break and encounters Maurice, played by Anthony Anderson, who is basically the nurse. He is the guy who has been assigned as her protective detail by her father.
Man, the Juliet's confidant characters really always get the shaft on these.
Yeah, and Maurice especially. He has a rough time in this movie.
Does he get beat up a lot?
He gets beat up by Jet Li specifically a lot.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we got a brief shot of Jet Li arriving in Oakland. We go to a barber shop where the owner and one of his customers are talking about a new football team that's coming to Oakland, apparently. This is plot relevant. And then a package arrives at the barber shop and then it explodes and kills everybody. And we cut from that to Jet Li making the sketchiest possible.
Wait, hold on.
Yes.
A bomb explodes at a barber shop?
A bomb explodes in a barber shop.
I love that you sped through that as though it's a footnote.
It's not a long scene. Let's be clear. It's a very brief scene. And it's basically like the owner and one of his customers like talking shit about this new football team and talking about, oh, well, you know, a new arena brings jobs. Oh, like you'd ever get a job. And then it's like, oh, he packaged for you. Boom.
Wow.
And that's the scene. So yeah, Jet Li goes to a hardware store, buys a bunch of like zip ties, like a multi-tool, a drill, and some other stuff. And then he goes and steals a cab.
Just like Romeo and Juliet.
Meanwhile, Alia is at the record shop next door. She slips away from Maurice, who's still her protective detail, and she climbs into the cab that Jet Li just stole. So that's their meet cute. She's like, hey, I know you're not really a cab driver because the license is on the back of the chair here, and that's not you, my guy. But also I'll give you $50 if you drive me away from here anyway. So they drive off and banter, and it's fun and cute, and they have cool chemistry, and Jet Li almost gets into several accidents because he's from Hong Kong, and he keeps driving on the wrong side of the road, and that's Act 1.
So this is the dance.
This is the dance, is this getaway in the cab, where they talk back and forth about, oh, does everybody in Hong Kong know martial arts? Haha, yeah, actually.
In this movie, they do.
And in this movie, they do, because everybody in the world knows martial arts.
It's like when you pull up a Cynthia Rothrock movie and suddenly, like, everybody just knows how to do martial arts.
But yeah, but it's like a genuinely good meet cute for these two characters. It's a lot of fun. I enjoyed that.
That's your Act 1?
That's my Act 1. Mackenzie, what you got?
So Emma Roberts, who is Nikki in this film, goes to London to start studying under female Gordon Ramsay.
She went to London?
Yeah, she went to London.
To make pizzas?
No, she no longer makes pizzas because pizzas aren't classy enough.
I see.
They even directly reference this lady as being female Gordon Ramsay and directly reference many Gordon Ramsay memes.
Wow.
To the point where the chef is like, you've got so much oil on your plate, the U.S. Army will invade it.
Is anyone ever an idiot sandwich?
Yes, the girl who has so much oil has to pick up bread and put them on either side of her face and declares herself an idiot sandwich.
Aw.
I do have to say, if you as a young chef are going away to study in a place where you want to learn how to make, like, classy, interesting food, Britain, not your first choice.
Britain.
Like, I live here.
Known for conquering half the world and then never using any of their food, they had curry once and they were like, we're just going to stick with that one.
Yeah, they like curry.
Let's just stick with the curry.
That's about it.
Don't worry, there are lots of British references coming up.
Oh,
God.
Good. I bet they're really good jokes.
They're great. She then summons Gareth and Nikki, female Gordon Ramsay does, I should say, and is like, you two are my best students. I am opening a new restaurant and I want one of you to be the head chef there, and I want you to create
Oh, this accent's good.
a menu, and if you get the menu, I will make you the head chef. Now go away and go make your menus, and by go away, Nikki flies home to Toronto.
What?
We then flash to one of the pizza restaurants. They're right next to each other. I couldn't tell you which one. They were completely interchangeable to me this whole film.
That's okay.
But I will tell
okay, so
you-
the pizza restaurants are literally in like adjoining
Yes.
Built,
They're literally
in the same building.
yes, literally same building. They're only separated by a few planters.
Also, I just looked up this movie on IMDb so I could put faces to names. Andrea fucking Martin's in this movie.
Yeah. It's got a lot of big names in it.
I'm sorry, I'm just still stuck on two restaurants with identical food right next to each other. How
Yeah.
is this business sustainable?
It's apparently not, because both struggle to get people in.
Yeah,
every day.
because you both sell the exact same stuff. Get into calzones.
Also, importantly, they have, like, you know those streamers that have, like, flags on them? What flags do you think are hanging on there?
Italian flags.
Oh, God. Dare I say it's an Italian flag, because I know I'm going to be wrong.
Italian flags.
Italy is one of the flags on the streamers. You guys aren't wrong.
One of them?
One?
Okay.
Okay.
But there's also Canadian,
Okay.
and for no reason, the U.S. flag.
The U.S. flag.
Why?
I don't know why the U.S. flag is hanging in a...
But they're even very clear
Toronto
that this
shop.
takes place in Toronto.
Yeah, it, like, explicitly takes place in Toronto.
Or are they worried that the Americans wouldn't watch unless you, like, flashed in a little American flag like you're distracting a toddler every once in a while?
I don't know. This doesn't seem very American to me. Oh, yay! Yay! Yay, there's the Stars and Stripes. God bless America. Okay, I can watch this movie now.
I will eat at these restaurants because America!
Finally, something I understand. This is all getting so confusing. When will someone talk about soccer?
We then flash to, like, Hayden Christensen showing up for work at his family's pizza restaurant, where they're complaining about how no one wants to eat there that day because they're all going over to Sal's Pizza next door, that bastard.
This is like if my big fat Greek wedding was about two Greek families with restaurants right next to each other.
Also, they called it Sal's Pizzeria.
Yeah. There's Sal and there's Vince. Those are the two dads who are warring.
Oh my God, like, did they just Google most Italian names?
Yes.
The girl's name is Nikki.
Oh my God.
Short for Nicoletta.
Yeah.
But Leo, who is Hayden Christensen's name, he comes in and there's constant, like, sex jokes basically immediately as he walks in.
Oh God.
Are they like pizza sex jokes or just like, boy, I want to fuck Hayden Christensen?
Yes, sort of.
Boy, I'd let him kill my younglings.
Like, as he's walking in, there's a lady walking out of Vince's pizza, his dad's pizza, with a pizza. He goes, by the way, we deliver. And she goes, oh, I bet you do, wink.
Oh my God.
Oh, like his penis.
Yeah.
Like his penis.
Like his
Like his
penis
penis.
delivers.
Okay.
He delivers his penis to,
He delivers
to her
his
house.
penis.
He delivers an extra large sausage, if you will.
The sausage is like it's penis shaped.
He walks in, he's talking to his parents. His dad's upset because he's like, hardly anybody's coming in today. A man comes in wearing one of those, like, mechanic outfits that has, like, the name tag on, and it says, like, Larry.
Sure.
And he's getting a pizza, and he's like, oh, by the way, if you need your lights fixed, I can kind of help you with that. Sal next door was mentioning that you were having a lot of mechanical issues.
So wait, are they about to blame the lack of business in one pizzeria by somebody walking into the other pizzeria and hearing that the pizzeria next door that serves identical food to the food they are now eating is having lighting issues?
Vince is going to throw a tantrum with this guy's pizza and basically flips it over, throws it around, smacks it against things, and then shoves it at him and says, you're sleeping with the enemy. I don't want you eating here anymore.
I think I discovered your business problem.
Well, I think I figured out why nobody wants to eat at this pizzeria.
There's also this point where Vince grasps his chest and goes, my vagina! And his wife goes, no, your angina.
Oh my God.
Your heart's over on the other side of your chest too, babe.
Okay, so that's definitely a joke that, like, you had to look up to find the right body part that sounded enough like vagina, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, angina, my dad has that. It's like a heart condition.
Okay, but you still had to, like, look that up, right?
There's an Indian character who works at each of these pizza restaurants.
Like he works at both? Or well, there's one and there's another?
There's a dude at one, and then there's a lady at the other.
Okay.
Okay.
And there are, I will say, 1,000 Indian stereotype jokes made throughout this film.
Oh, no.
Conservatively.
Oh, so it's not just Italians.
Yeah, but the Indian characters always say it, so it's fine.
Oh, is it?
Is it though?
That's what the movie thinks.
I need to know what the screenwriter looks like before I can say that for sure.
He's very white. I looked him up.
Oh boy.
These two Indian characters have a rivalry where they're constantly making these racist Indian jokes at each other. So they go back and forth a few times. The girl walks back into Vince's restaurant, and Vince is like, why does my tomato sauce smell like cat piss? And she leans over and she goes, oh, it's curry powder.
The screenwriter is Canadian immigrant parents from Italy. So don't make the Indian jokes, maybe, buddy.
Nah, no, don't do that. Luckily, Nikki comes home and saves us from this. She lands at the airport. Her parents are expecting her home, but instead she goes straight to a bar with some friends. And here's where we talk about Englishmen. She spends, like, the next 5 minutes making vague euphemisms about how Englishmen perform in bed.
What?
They don't.
She talks about how the one that she was dating was a stockbroker, and he had a very sizable portfolio, but no substance. And one of her friends says,
Sizable portfolio, but no substance. So,
I don't even know what that's supposed to be referencing.
So, like, his penis is big, but he's not good at sex? Or...
Yeah, I think that's what she meant. Then one of her friends replies, well, I at least heard that English guys are good at going downtown, if you know what I mean.
They're not.
Where did you hear that? Is that a thing? Englishmen love what? Why would that?
Englishmen just love eating pussy. That's definitely a stereotype. What?
What?
I will point out that a British friend of mine, I have him look over, like, my Moriarty stories before publication to, like, Brit-pick them. And in the first one that had a sex scene in it, he said, oh yeah, it was fine, except for one thing, British people don't like sex.
But they love going down.
Nikki does reply that yes, the men there love oral, but they're bad at it.
Well, then do they really love it? If they're bad at it, do they really love it?
I don't know what that is supposed to imply. I don't know why or where they got this.
This is a weird thing to talk about for a pizza rom-com, right?
But this goes on for like 5 minutes.
Why?
And then it turns out one of Nikki's friends goes, by the way, look who's over there. And we turn and we see Hayden Christensen.
He's smoking some death sticks.
You want to buy some death sticks?
You don't want to sell me death sticks.
I don't want to sell you death sticks.
You want to go home and rethink your life.
I want to go home and rethink my life.
Oh no, Hayden Christensen might have heard me talking about getting my pussy ate badly by British guys. What?
He's apparently a bartender here at night. She's like, oh, you planned this. And her friends are like, maybe I did. And this bar is the party, by the way.
This is the party.
This is the party. Nikki and Hayden start sparring with each other. He gives her a shot. She drinks it. And then she goes, so when are we going to have another soccer battle? Saying soccer instead of football.
Wait, but it's Canada.
But it's Canada, and set in Canada canonically in the movie.
But you know what? They have the American flags. I've been so confused since they took the American flags off the screen. I've just been wondering where this movie is, why I should care. I'm too American for this. Oh, soccer! God bless
Soccer.
America! Land that I love. Great. I'm back on board.
I'll just quickly jump in to say it is called soccer in Canada. It's not called football. We have our own football.
Well, Kit, it needs to be soccer for the Americans too, okay? But Nikki and Leo, who is Hayden's character, go into a soccer competition where the whole bar follows them outside cheering.
The whole bar?
Because everybody's interested in this conversation.
What time of night is this? Because it's more excusable the later at night it is.
There's got to be something else on TV, right?
I would guesstimate it's like 10.
Like following a bunch of people out into the street for a soccer match is definitely last call activity.
Pouring rain. Leo's roommate, because they share an apartment together, who owns the bar, is like, everybody, we gotta see Leo versus Nikki, yeah!
Like a one-on-one shootout?
If Leo kicks the ball past Nikki, she takes a drink. If Nikki blocks the ball, Leo takes a drink.
And we all had to leave the warm, dry bar for this to go outside in the rain.
Yeah, it's pouring rain, and everybody has left the bar to watch this. Watch two people kick a soccer ball at each other and get drunk.
Again, if it's like 1 a.m.
Is everybody going to clap when somebody says something insightful?
This is that whole movie. The whole movie is everybody else in the show being aware of this family and clapping anytime they do anything.
People in Toronto don't know each other that well.
Well, they know this family. So they go back and forth. Each of them takes a couple shots. One of Nikki's friends runs up in the middle of this competition and says, "Hey, babe, I have diarrhea and I have got to shit, so I'm leaving."
What?
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 That just happens.
Is that word for word?
That's word for word.
Oh, no.
I mean, she couldn't think of any other reason to leave.
No, she just runs up and says, "I have diarrhea and I've got to shit, so I got to go."
But it wasn't the restaurant.
Oh, no.
Lillian,
Oh, no.
where are you going?
I need a bathroom.
Okay, so is this an excuse or does she genuinely have diarrhea is my question.
We never see this person again, so I don't know.
Oh, God.
Oh, where are you going? Be careful. What are you doing?
Wait, so we never see her again in the whole movie?
No, she's here long enough to get Nikki to the bar where Hayden Kirstensen works, and then she has to shit, so she leaves.
Hayden Kirstensen?
It's happening. It's happening.
Okay, so she shits herself and dies. Got it.
Yeah.
It happened.
What are you doing?
It happened.
She's got dysentery, she's dead.
We're just going to assume this character has shit herself to death.
She got cholera while on the Oregon Trail, and she's gone now.
Dysentery.
Dysentery. Although cholera does also make you shit yourself to death.
Eventually, only Nikki and Leo are left on the field, because everybody else was like, "This is fucking stupid. I am cold and wet and muddy. Let's go." And Nikki is totally hammered, and Leo's partly hammered, and he goes in to scoop her up because she's, like, collapsed to the ground. And they almost kiss. But they don't. And that's the end of Act 1.
Oh, my God.
Okay, so our dances are actual dance
Meet cute in a stolen taxi.
and middle of the night drunk soccer.
Yes.
Off to a great start here.
Act 2, everybody. Ignoring the danger, Romeo scales the Capulet's wall to be near Juliet, the woman he cannot forget. Unnoticed in Juliet's orchard, Romeo learns of Juliet's love for him. After declaring their feelings for each other, the two decide to marry. Juliet will send Romeo a messenger in the morning to make plans for their wedding. The very next day, we meet Romeo's friend, Friar Lawrence. He wonders how Romeo can forget Rosaline so quickly, but agrees to marry the two since he hopes the marriage will end the long-running Montague-Capulet feud. Romeo catches up with his friends Mercutio and Benvolio. Juliet's messenger, the nurse, arrives and the wedding is set for later that day. The nurse brings Romeo cords, or ropes, which will allow Romeo to climb into Juliet's bedchamber as her husband later that night. Act 2 ends with Romeo and Juliet's marriage.
All right, so over in West Side Story, Tony just met a girl named Maria.
Yes.
And he sings a gorgeous little song about it, about how Maria is just the best name that's ever happened, and he's in love, and everything's gonna be A-okay. Meanwhile, Act 2 kind of expands out. We have more sequences with the sharks that don't necessarily match one-to-one with Romeo and Juliet because we spend more time with these characters. Because what we have to do now is Bernardo lecturing his sister about dancing with some whitey. And Anita's like, fine, I'll go to bed. And Anita chases Bernardo up to the roof, being like, you're not her real dad. Which Bernardo's like, you're right, I'm not, but my parents don't know anything about this town either, and I'm the only one who does, because, second generation immigration. Anita's like, well, actually, America rules. I would rather be here than in Puerto Rico.
God bless America.
Funny you should say.
Girls in America are allowed to be fun and be free, and Bernardo's like, no. Anita berates Bernardo for starting a war with the Jets over Maria kissing Tony. Bernardo is angry about how the Jets are all immigrants as well. They're Swedish and Polish, but they hold Puerto Ricans to a double standard because they're not white. And, they're constantly compared to being, an infestation. There's a lot of stuff that's just, I don't want to repeat these things. They're racist in the play and the show. They're meant to be racist.
It is a portrayal of racism.
Yeah. Anita and Bernardo argue about Puerto Rico versus America. They get into a great fucking song, which is America, which is this sardonic look at immigration idealism versus racial injustice. It's just fucking fun. It's a great song.
It's my favorite song out of West Side Story. It's terrific.
It's so good.
Standout line, life is all right in America if you're all white in America.
Oh yeah, the whole thing is full of these great snappy back and forths between Anita and Bernardo. It's so good. Meanwhile, Maria's getting ready for bed, but here comes Tony at the fire escape because it's like a balcony. They meet up. There's this funny thing where we do with musicals where it's diegetic versus non-diegetic singing, where it's shh, Tony, you have to be quiet, but let's sing tonight. And Tony's like, oh, it'll be great. Yeah. Oh, your dad calls you a cute nickname? I love him. He'll love us. This'll be great. She's like, you're the Jets, though. And he's like, well, I'm not one of them. And Maria points out, but you're not one of us either. And I'm not one of you. Then the couple pronounce their love for each other, which is Tonight, which is a song that I usually hear played for very slow schmaltz. It's just this little ballad, but I actually really like how it actually plays in West Side Story, especially in this arrangement of it, because it is played with a lot of urgency to it. This is full of excitement. They're dumb, love-struck teenagers. They're barreling into this head first. Instead of tonight, tonight. It's tonight, tonight. You've got this halftime going on there, which I'm off tempo, but Maria shoos Tony away. They exchange I love yous. They make plans to meet tomorrow at Madame Lucia's bridal shop where Anita and Maria work as seamstresses at closing time.
Symbolic wedding.
Symbolic wedding. That'll be a little later. Meanwhile, the Jets are waiting for the sharks to show up outside of the candy shop, which is Friar Lawrence's candy shop, basically. Officer Krumke pulls up, he argues with the Jets, he tells them to scram, and then they sing this great song about how cops are all dumbasses and they're going to get off easy because they're such sympathetic boys. They're just products of their environment, and none of them are to blame for any of their racist violent actions. Which is very much the 1961 version of douchebags who co-opt therapy words to manipulate others.
Oh my god.
This West Side Story is so quietly vicious. It's so good.
Oh man, it's just full of such rage at the world. It's kind of great. Doc, our Friar Lawrence, lets the boys in. He's this old man. He runs a candy shop. It's kind of a soda fountain and / convenience store. A little bit of a bodega thing. You've got a pinball machine, you've got darts, there's tables. This is clearly a hangout spot too. So candy shop for various definitions in 1961. The boys say that they're doing a war council. Doc doesn't approve, but he's gonna host it anyway. There's a whistle to alert the Jets. That's that same conflict leitmotif from the very beginning. And the sharks come in. Riff and Bernardo argue about, who started this conflict between them. They keep going on, well, you did this first. Well, you did this first. And they agree to go to war tomorrow, have a big fight after dark underneath the highway. They start arguing over weapons, but Tony shows up because he works here. And he's like, hold on. How about it takes a real man to just punch a man with no weapons so you don't kill him? And he talks them into doing a bare-knuckle brawl, one-on-one, best man from each gang. Riff and Bernardo agree to it. Bernardo, because he assumed that he was going to fight Tony. And Tony kissed his sister, so he wants to kill this man. But Riff instead pulls forward his lieutenant, who is named Ice, who's a character original to the movie version, as I understand it. A lookout whistles for the cops, and Lieutenant Schenk comes in, and the Jets and the Sharks all, pretend to be buddies, because if there's one thing they hate more than each other,
It's cops.
it's an adult who's also a cop. Schrank harasses the Sharks, he says some racist things to try to provoke them, but they know they can't touch him without being arrested. And there's this line where the lieutenant has, which is like, oh yeah, I know, it's a free country, and I ain't got the right. But I got a badge. What do you got? This play was written in 1957.
Yeah, it's so fucking brutal. It's...
Oh yeah, that's great. Yeah, I know, you're right. It should be a great, idyllic, free country, but I have a cop badge.
So I can do whatever I want.
Yep. Schrank tells the Sharks specifically to get lost, and the Sharks they sardonically whistle, "My country, 'tis of thee." Schrank wants details on the rumble that they're going to be doing. He tries to get offers from the Jets. He's like, no, I'm on your side. I'm going to help clean out the Sharks for good. And what's interesting is that when the Jets don't cooperate, Schrank turns on them immediately. He starts calling them immigrant scum because guess what? That's how racism works. You keep finding more ways to separate the bad ones and the good ones, and the cop one is the worst one of all.
Yup.
We're gonna play nice as long as you do whatever I want. The moment you show any kind of defiance and not doing whatever I want, all of a sudden I'm gonna lump you in with everybody else that I hate.
Yeah, immediately you find more denominators to separate out the good ones and the bad ones, and it's just so vicious. And the Jets leave. Doc, Tony, and are tidying up, and Schrank is like, oh yeah, well, I'm not to blame either. You try keeping hoodlums in line and see what it does to you. I can't be blamed for my actions. They made me do it.
Are we the baddies?
He marches out, and Tony and Doc are like, hey, fuck that guy, actually. Like, oh yeah, I try keeping hoodlums in line. And Doc is like, well, it wouldn't give me a mouth like him. Tony is like, oh, don't worry about it. Everything's gonna be fine. I'm in love. I've been to the moon and there's a lady there. Doc is like, He figures out that Tony starts speaking in really bad Spanish, and Doc's like, oh, buddy,
Uh-oh.
I don't know if this is going to work out for you. And Tony's like, well, I'm in love. Why should I be frightened? Everything's great. I'm going to go to the playground blacktop where we had a fight in the first scene of the movie and think about being in love, and nothing bad will happen, especially not here specifically later.
It's not like there's a limited number of sets and we got to reuse them for key points in the movie.
This is where the movie actually has an intermission break. This isn't where the musical has an intermission break. That happens a little later. But we cut back real quick to the last scene for this act of Romeo and Juliet, which is Maria at the dress shop swooning over being love-struck. She feels pretty, oh so pretty. And it's a whole song where her friends are like, Maria, you have to calm down. Maria, you're ridiculous. What are you doing? What's wrong with you? Madame Lucia, who owns the shop, closes up. Anita's like, great, let's go. And Maria's like, you go ahead, I'll lock up. Don't worry about it. Who's coming over? Nobody's coming over. Why would you say that? Don't worry about it, I'll lock up. She finds out about the rumble that's going to be happening, and she's just horrified by this. Tony is like, hello, Maria. Hi, who are you? Because Anita's right there, and he's a dumbass. Anita reluctantly agrees not to tell Bernardo and leaves, while Maria's like, hey, Tony, you have to go stop this rumble from happening. He's like, oh, I just changed it into a fist fight. And she's like, Tony, any fight is bad. Any gang violence that we have amongst our groups is a bad thing. It doesn't matter if it's just punching I'll put down my sword and you put down your rock and we'll try to punch each other to death like civilized gentlemen. Lucas, just give me the actual line there.
You'll put down your rock and I'll put down my sword and we'll try and kill each other like civilized people.
Tony's like, oh, okay, I'll go try to stop the rumble. And then we'll meet up afterwards on the roof, and it'll be great and perfect, and nothing will go wrong. Let's flirt with mannequins and do a play pretend wedding. Everything's great.
Nothing bad will happen.
There's not going to be any problems at all. Don't worry about it. And that's the end of my Act 2.
All right, so Act 2 in Romeo Must Die, also a long one. So we go to Isaac, who is, to remind everybody, our Capulet. He goes off to play golf with a guy named Vince Roth, who mostly fills the role of the prince, kind of, sort of. Vince Roth is a businessman who's trying to set up a new NFL franchise in Oakland and has partnered with Isaac to do that. What they're doing is they're basically trying to buy up land for the arena, but some guys in the territory that Isaac is responsible for securing are holding out and won't sell. Again, this is plot relevant, but also I don't know why it is. There's a surprisingly complex political plot going on behind the scenes here that you just kind of barely managed to piece together, especially considering the version I watched didn't have subtitles.
You guys have a lot of sports going on in your movies.
Yeah, a lot of sports. Alia gets back to her store, and then she finds out her brother, Colin, who you may remember from appearing at the end of the brawl scene, he has been making, quote, business calls from the store, i.e., crimes. He has been making calls related to crimes from this store. And then he does mention to his dad, who he was calling in that scene, that Poe, the guy who got murked, called Colin before he was killed. And he doesn't get much chance to explain before Alia walks in and it's like, don't make phone calls from here. Meanwhile, we go to Jet Li, who breaks into Poe's apartment by drilling the lock open. And then we learn that Poe was Jet Li's younger brother. And also that Jet Li was a cop. We see pictures of him in a uniform. Jet Li finds Poe's phone, which is a landline because it says 2000. He hits redial, and who picks up but the cashier at Alia's store, and he hangs up immediately. So now he knows the last number that Poe called was Alia's store. Mac, meanwhile, who is kind of our Paris.
I love being Paris.
Comes to scold Alia for ditching Maurice, her babysitter. And then he talks vaguely about striking out on his own in a way that's going to be foreshadowing later. And also awkwardly puts the moves on her and talks about how, like, you know, when he's big guy on the hill, she'll want to attach herself to him. This is why I think he's kind of the Paris character here. Colin goes to meet with his dad, Isaac, and he says, hey, so yeah, Poe wanted to meet with me at DMX's nightclub the night he got killed. And he's like, well, what did he want to talk about? And Colin's like, I don't know. He said something about, quote, ending the war. And we also learn that Isaac is this big business deal he's got coming up is basically his plan to go legit and stop doing gangster shit. Mac comes up to tell Isaac about the barber shop that exploded, because again, that is, despite the fact that it's weird as fuck, it is plot relevant.
You think that he would have already heard about the barbershop that exploded on any news site.
Well, it's 2000.
Like any source of news, like a newspaper or a television program.
Well, that's the thing. Mac brings him a newspaper that has that as the front page news. I guess Isaac has not looked at newspapers yet today.
I guess.
Yeah, Jet Li proceeds to follow Alia home to ask, hey, why did my younger brother call your shop? And Alia says, well, he didn't necessarily want to talk to me. Maybe he wanted to talk to the cashier. Or, oh, shit, my brother uses my store's phone for business calls sometimes. He might have talked to my brother.
Oh, business calls.
As Jet Li is saying, hey, can you go talk to your brother for me? Maurice, our nurse character, shows up with some guys. And Alia's like, hey, if you don't want to get your ass whooped, you should probably go out the window. And Jet Li's like, no, I prefer the front door. And then he proceeds to open the door, sees Maurice there, pulls out a couple of dollar bills, and pretends to be the Chinese food delivery boy on his way back out.
Oh boy.
Which is, it's a cool ruse. It lasts for approximately 5 seconds until Maurice is like, I don't smell Chinese food, and chases after this guy. At which point, Jet Li proceeds to whoop everybody with zip ties in their own belts. It's actually a pretty good fight scene.
That sounds pretty good.
He, like, zip ties people's arms to each other and zip ties them to, like, pieces of scenery so they can't move. He hobbles a guy with his own belt. It's good. So he gets away. Meanwhile, Chu Sing, or Montague, goes to meet with other leaders of his syndicate, and they discuss this ongoing war with Isaac's people. They're talking about how businesses keep getting firebombed and stuff. They're like, hey, we should retaliate. And Chu's like, no, let's not do that. I'll decide when we retaliate. Meanwhile, Jet Li shows up to Poe's funeral, his brother's funeral, and then corners his dad and says, hey, who killed my brother? Chu does not tell him basically anything, but through them arguing, we find out that Jet Li was a cop in Hong Kong, where he and his brother were born and where his father was based. When the cops started going after his brother and father because they were, I guess, triad, he helped them flee to the U.S. and as a result was sent to jail for aiding and abetting the escape of a criminal. So Jet Li finishes yelling at his dad, goes to meet up with Kai, who is kind of our Benvolio here. They have a friendly practice fight that will definitely not have a dark mirror later on in the movie.
Sounds normal.
Normal. Jet Li shows up at this park where Alia's hanging out to ask her if she's talked to her brother yet. And in the process, he gets dragged into this American football match with like Mac Maurice and a bunch of other guys. Jet Li initially sucks at American football, but once he figures out he's allowed to hit people, he gets a lot better at it. Meanwhile, we got that night Colin smoking weed with his girlfriend, talking about how, like, you know, his dad doesn't yet see that he's like a man and he has promise, etc., etc. And then somebody shows up at their door and the very next shot is them both getting thrown out the window to their deaths.
Oh,
Yeah, like they land in the bay, which from the height when they fell, that kills people. And the next scene, unfortunately, is Alia being there to see them drag Colin out of the water. Her dad's there too. She yells at him that this is all his fault. And then we cut to Jet Li getting back to Poe's apartment to find the place that has been ripped apart and very thoroughly searched. Someone was clearly looking for something. Did not appear to find it. Jet Li, in going through the wreckage, he finds Poe's car keys, goes down to this car in the garage, and he finds that god-awful cane from the first scene, and he manages to twist off the top and finds that there is a list hidden inside with a bunch of addresses on it. So he comes back up to Poe's apartment, and in the meantime, Alia has arrived, does not have anything to say about the fact that the place is turned upside down, but she does tell him that Colin is dead, and now they both have a stake in the plot. We have a brief scene to reestablish that Vince Roth is trying to build a waterfront arena in Oakland, just back to this NFL thing, because that's the justification for a lot of what happens in this movie. Alia and Jet Li decide that they're going to go investigate one of the properties on the list, which are all waterfront properties. This one is an auto shop full of freshly dead people. Like, there's cigars on the ashtray that are still smoking. That's how freshly dead these people are. As Jet Li realizes this and goes to leave, the two people who killed all the freshly dead people, which are a couple of, like, people in full, like, motorcycle suits and helmets and on motorcycles, start chasing after them. Jet Li gets in the car with Alia. We get this cool chase scene. They manage to disable both the motorcycles. One of the people on the motorcycles is unmasked, and it's a Chinese woman. Jet Li feels bad about hitting a girl, so instead he, like, grabs Alia and swings her around like dance moves to hit her for him. It's pretty fun. And we get our second X-ray shot as the motorcycle lady gets accidentally impaled by a jagged piece of metal during that fight. So she's dead. She can't answer any questions. Jet Li goes to confront his dad about the murders at the auto shop, and his dad tries to deflect suspicion onto Isaac and Alia. Oh yeah, Isaac must have hired some Chinese people to do the hit. This girl you like is clearly involved. This does not really convince Jet Li of anything. Meanwhile, we get a couple of scenes in succession where the movie's like, okay, we're done playing coy about what's going on here. So we have a scene where Mac rolls up to a black-owned crabbing boat in Oakland, and then he forces them to side over the deed to the property. Kai, meanwhile, rolls up to some kind of business operating off of a barge, kills everybody on the barge, and then explodes it. And then Kai meets up with Chu Sing to kill more triad leaders, basically all of them, in the back of a truck, because it turns out that when they die, all their properties are transferred to the collective, and if Chu is the only one remaining in the collective, he owns all the properties. He then calls Vince to say, yeah, he's got all these deeds in hand for the land. It's because he's also in on this arena deal. It's him and Isaac procuring the land for the arena deal. Isaac, meanwhile, is terrified for his daughter's safety, so he goes to her house and says, hey, you're going to come stay at my place for a bit, and she goes along with it. She overhears Isaac and Mac talking about something going down at DMX's club that night. And then there is a scene where Jet Li climbs onto her balcony, and they talk for a bit.
Hey!
For a balcony! Yay!
Scene 2!
Had to be in there somewhere. They do a fun thing where she has to hide him from her dad a couple of times, and then they say, oh, something's going on at DMX's club tonight. We should go there and check it out. So they go to the club. There's this fun bit where Alia takes one look at Jet Li in, like, his recently escaped Hong Kong cop clothes and says, okay, we got to do something about this. She takes her baseball cap off and puts it on his head and turns it backwards, and then he kind of pulls his pants down. And she's like, okay, now you look kind of hip-hop. This is probably fine. And then there's a scene in the nightclub where they dance together, and there's some genuine chemistry there, and she's singing along to the music in the club, which might actually be an Alia song. That's sort of the symbolic wedding scene of this movie.
They grind, and then they have to get married?
I guess it's, like I said, it's the symbolic wedding scene. This is the bit where it's like, oh, This is kind of a relationship now.
He has to make an honest woman out of her. They kissed or something.
They don't kiss in this movie. I'll get into it later, but they don't even kiss.
Okay.
Don't worry. I got enough smooching and fucking for all of us.
Oh, God.
Fucking in a pizza comedy?
Why is the pizza comedy the horny one?
Speaking of which, last time we left our Romeo and Juliet, aka Leo and Nikki, she was drunk, he was picking her up, they were about to smooch, and now Nikki wakes up naked in bed.
Naked?
Yeah. So what follows is a comedy of errors that lasts too long.
Oh, God.
Oh, no.
Because first she sees the bartender, who I noted that Leo is roommates with, though Nikki doesn't know this yet. He's, like, pulling boxers on.
In her room?
And so she sees his bare butt in the same room.
Where is she?
In Leo's bed, naked.
Leo's bed?
Yes. And she panics. There's some conversation back and forth where he's like, oh, by the way, you handle balls real well.
No!
No!
What a weird way to talk about sports equipment.
So she thinks, oh no, I fucked this guy. And he's like, eventually, after way too long, because again, this scene lasts way too long, he does eventually go like, sad you couldn't beat Leo, but at least you're good at soccer.
Beat Leo like his penis.
So she realizes, okay, I didn't fuck him. Don't know why I'm naked, but I didn't fuck him.
Why is she naked?
Why is she naked?
That we'll get there.
Oh,
Okay.
great.
She says, like, why are you here putting on boxers? He goes, oh, I had to steal a pair of Leo's because all of mine are ripped.
Why? How did you rip your boxers?
And then he just walks off, leaving it at that.
How did you rip your boxers?
What kind of relationship do they have where...
Do you have the same size underwear? How did he rip all of his underwear? What was he doing?
Oh no!
What happened?
If I'm living with someone who keeps borrowing my underwear because all theirs are ripped, I'm not living with them for long.
And also, like, you don't borrow somebody else's underwear. That's just their underwear now.
That's just your underwear now.
That's just, like I'm not going to ask for it back. That's yours now.
After he leaves, Leo walks in carrying a small espresso cup. And he's like, for your hangover. Hands it over to her. They go back and forth a little bit. And eventually she's like, by the way, did we, And she gestures between them. He goes, what? Fuck no. And then she's like, then why am I naked? He goes, I don't know. When I put you in my bed, you were dressed. I don't know what you did with your clothes.
That's the explanation?
No, that's not good enough.
That's not an explanation.
That is not an explanation. How dare... No.
That's the explanation you get.
You can't just be like, I don't know, my clothes just fell off while I was asleep. That's like the kind of lazy thing that's like, oh no, Mr. Plumber, how will I ever pay you for your services rendered? Oh, a pizza, but I don't have any change.
So she's like, well, where's my dress? He goes, I don't know. You're the one who threw it somewhere.
No.
And he goes, if you can't find it, just put on one of my shirts. There's my stuff. And he walks out.
Oh, now that is just...
So she goes and she puts on one of his shirts. He's like, are you dressed? She's like, basically.
Is this a fanfic?
He walks back in. She is not dressed. She is still buttoning up the shirt. But he just stares at her ass for a little bit because you can kind of see, the bottom bits of her butt.
No, for God's sake.
She goes to sit down. They're basically gossiping about their family. And she's like, oh my God. I was supposed to be home last night. My dad is going to kill me.
But baby, it's pizza outside. Gotta go away, baby, it's pizza outside.
Hayden Christensen's like, I'm pretty sure my dad's going to kill me because he's going to think we fucked. And then he's like, oh, here's your dress. And he pulls it out of his closet where it's hanging up on a hanger.
What?
Don't know.
What? Wait, they don't explain that?
They don't explain it.
So she sleeps.
So she got out of bed, took her dress off, put it on a hanger, got back into bed naked, and did not remember any of this.
Yes, apparently.
She's sleep undressed and tidied.
Yes, apparently.
Mackenzie, this is shenanigans. This is some shenanigans, Mackenzie.
We flash to the restaurants where Sal, aka Nikki's dad, is like, oh, Vince is gonna like how I fucked with him today.
You can't say that. You can't say that in the horny pizza movie, Mackenzie. Did they actually talk about sex or not?
Who? Hayden Christensen or the parents?
I'm just saying, you can't say, oh, he's gonna love how I fucked with him today. You can't say that.
That's what he said. I can't help it. He didn't say fuck. He was like, he did say something like an innuendo-y. I didn't write down every innuendo or I would have been writing for like 12 hours. But he did say something innuendo-y, but that's basically what it meant.
Why can't one of these restaurants just start serving, like, pasta or sandwiches?
No. Pizza only.
Why do they have to both make pizza?
Pizza only. We then flash back to Vince's side of the pizza. He's complaining to his wife about something. His wife goes outside to serve some guests at the same time that the other wife is going out. Turns out they're best friends. So they lean over the planters and share some gossip. And they're like, when are our husbands going to get over this? Oh, I don't know, but I wish they would so we can be friends again properly. Oh, by the way, Nikki's back in town. Oh, she is. How delightful. And then their husbands both are like, get back in the restaurant. So then they have to fake flipping each other off and stuff like that.
I hate this.
Is this like when Barney and Fred are fighting and Betty and Wilma are just like, men,
yeah,
let's go shopping?
Basically, yes. Nikki finally shows up at her family's restaurant. She's like, oh, look, I'm here. Her family don't mention that she was supposed to be home last night. They're just like, my beautiful girl is here. Look. Oh, your Nona wants to give you a smoochie. And things like that.
Smoochy.
They talk for a while.
Smoochy.
They make like 25 pizza puns in a row. Ask Nikki how much she's missed pizza. And eventually this culminates in her dad saying, take a bite, and offering a slice to her mouth. And she takes a bite and she goes, tastes like home. And her whole family cheers and bounces up and down.
Oh boy.
What does British pizza taste like?
Bad. They put sweet corn on the vegetarian pizza.
What?
Yeah.
That sounds delicious.
I mean, it depends on what else is on the pizza, but sweet corn?
Sweet corn.
Sweet corn.
We flash back to the other pizzeria. I have a question for you two.
Okay.
When someone does a weed, how do they act?
When someone does a weed and then you call the police by punching in numbers on your microwave.
How do they act?
How do they act?
A bit, it depends on the high.
Kind of sleepy?
Either kind of sleepy and stupid.
Giggly?
They realize that they're too high and they start to freak out and get paranoid.
They laugh at a lot of stuff that's not actually funny and they lose their filter.
Okay, so you would not say they start dancing on tables, throwing feather boas on out of nowhere and screaming and bouncing up and down?
That's way more physical
activity. That's a lot more energy than weed usually gives you, from what I understand.
Yeah, no, it's kind of a sedating influence, if anything.
Like, the only effective ad council don't smoke weed ad are the ones that's like, you're just gonna sit on your couch and do absolutely dog shit nothing. Go out to a movie. Go have fun.
Everybody in Vince's restaurant is like screaming and jumping on tables and dancing.
Screaming? They all got high and they're screaming?
In excitement. There is a grandma with a feather boa who is like doing that thing where you rub it between your legs while grinding on it.
Okay.
Oh, right. That thing. That normal thing.
Everybody's like, I love the pizza today, Vince. And he's like, I don't know why people are acting like this. When Hayden Christensen walks over to the oregano. No,
Oregano. Go back to oregano. Let's live.
Let's live in this world where we pronounce it oregano.
Exactly. We're gonna live in oregano world. We're on the oregano trail now, forever.
And he picks up some of it and sniffs it and goes, Dad, that's weed.
So he just put dried weed flakes on the pizza.
Dried weed flakes on the pizza and in the sauce.
Now, I'm not what one would call an expert on the subject. However, my brother does run a dispensary, and I feel like if you could get a decent high off of just eating dry, loose weed.
Both that, and imagine how expensive this prank was. Because it was a pretty...
That's a whole shaker full of weed!
It wasn't even a shaker. You know those little containers pizza places have with, like, toppings in them?
You said this came out in 2018?
It was full of that.
How many shakers full of weed?
That would be equivalent to, I would say, at least 4 shakers full of weed.
Oh, that's a lot of weed.
Okay, so, let's see. The Cannabis Act took effect on 17th of October, 2018.
Okay.
Making it legal then, so...
That's pretty late in the year.
It was released in 2018.
That's pretty late in the year, though.
This means it was before it was illegal, when it was filmed.
So it was probably filmed in, like, 2017. So they were working with 2017 there. So illegal weed.
This is legal weed.
I am currently checking the prices at my brother's dispensary. Give me a second here.
Okay. So a shaker full. How big is like an oregano shake?
As I said, it's not a shaker. It's like a little.
Is it like the stainless steel one with a handle?
It's like one of these guys. Hold on, I got a picture coming.
Hold steady, folks.
Okay, hang on. So, pre-milled, which I'm assuming this was, I don't imagine this guy had a grinder on hand. Pre-milled, we are looking at about $30 to $35 for 7 grams.
Okay, and Mac just posted a picture. This is like one of those like containers like at the salad bar or something. Like that you fill with croutons.
That is so much weed. That is like hundreds of dollars worth of weed.
So that thing's just stuffed to the brim with weed.
Yes.
That is hundreds of dollars for this prank.
So yeah, everybody high on weed from eating it on pizza.
And that made them excited, energetic, and horny.
Energetic, and they're like dancing, grinding, and horny. Vince turns to the male Indian and is like, can you calm this down? And he walks into the middle of this.
No.
And here comes some more racist jokes.
Oh, no.
No.
What's it gonna be?
With Grandma throwing her boa around his neck.
What?
And going, take me on your magic carpet ride, Aladdin.
No.
Oh, God.
No.
No.
And he replies with, well, let me show you my magic rope trick.
What?
And gestures at his penis.
No.
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 Indian?
Refuse.
Indian.
Nope.
That's not even... It's the Arabian Nights. What?
The cops then raid the pizza place.
Thank you. Finally. The cops did something right.
Sort of. A cab, actually. Because they arrest Vince, but then they take Hayden Christensen and the female cop, surrounded by female
Passersby.
shoves Hayden against the wall and says, I'm going to pat you down now.
It's internally pluralized like a real one. Passersby.
Passersby.
Not like a fake, like, Vanessa's Hudgens one.
Yeah, that's not us doing a goof. That's actually how you do it.
She starts feeling Hayden Christensen up.
What?
And it's like, I'm patting you down to check for weapons. But then instead she's like, oh, you've got a 6-pack. Oh, no, that's an 8-pack.
Oh, God.
No, it's not.
A buddy of mine saw Kylo Ren take his shirt off in the shower, and he said that Kylo Ren had an 8-pack. But Kylo Ren was shredded.
I'm going below the belt. Let me know if you have anything sharp or pointy or hard for me.
No.
Oh, God.
No.
Why is this happening here?
This is just sexual harassment.
This just goes on. This goes on for like 3 solid minutes as she feels him up.
Why?
This is just sexual harassment.
She grasps his butt and all the girls surrounding her gasp and excitement.
No, don't do that.
Okay, so, Mackenzie, how much of this movie, just minute for minute, is just innuendo and sexual harassment?
I would say at least a solid 75%.
Oh, God.
Don't lust after Hayden Christensen's abs. He was flexing those when he killed all the Tusken Raiders, even the women and children.
Eventually, Vince is thrown into a cop car and driven off, and everybody else is described as fine and not participating in this act. And Sal, Nikki's dad, laughs. And he said, I knew this would be a good day for me.
I spent several hundreds of dollars on this. I had to hang out with a weed guy for like 4 hours to get all this.
Yeah, and again, considering it might like $30 for 7 grams legally. Black market weed at the time was more expensive, so it's possible that he broke $1,000 on this prank.
And again, he had to get this illegally, so he had to get a dealer, which means he had to hang out with a dealer for so long to get all this weed. Notoriously one of the worst forced social interactions on the planet.
No, I don't want to play PS4. Please just let me complete this transaction.
Are you ready for some product placement?
Oh, God.
The grandparents of the 2 restaurants, so granddad and a grandmom, go to Starbucks together.
In 2018, Starbucks, so yeah, ubiquitous, completely ubiquitous. This wasn't even like a new thing. They went to go get Starbucks so they could face their little Starbucks cups at the camera.
I also feel like they're in Canada.
They're not going to Second Cup? What kind of Canadians are you people? F***ing traitors.
They're going to Starbucks. Grandma's like, I've never been here before. What's it like? And the guy says, you'll see.
It's a coffee shop.
They order a coffee. They go and sit down. They both take a sip. What follows is like 3 minutes of, this is the best coffee I've ever tasted. And This is to die for.
Boo.
Oh, come now. You don't go to Starbucks because it's quality coffee. You don't go to Starbucks for a good roast. Come on. Starbucks has its place, and it's not that.
Grandpa even says, if I die in the next 5 minutes, I die a happy man.
Jesus Christ.
At the Starbucks?
He then shouts out, bring us more coffee! Like he's Thor calling out to a wench.
Just drink, I like it.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!
Okay, first off, you have to go order more from the barista at the counter. What are you? But also, like...
They're not going to take an order by you screaming across the shop. That's just not going to happen.
Even in the Seattle area, birthplace of Starbucks, you don't go to Starbucks for quality coffee.
You go to Starbucks because it's there.
You go to Starbucks because it's there and it has free Wi-Fi, and we have a severely diminished amount of third places.
This is an ostensibly Canadian movie, and they're gushing effusively over Starbucks instead of just going to Tim's for a double-double. Fuck you.
They just gush for like the next few minutes about Starbucks. And then eventually they're like, I do not know if we can keep our love quiet and separate any longer.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
Who?
These grandparents have fallen in love.
The grandparents?
Yeah. The grandma is mother of Sal, and the grandpa is father of Vince. They talk about, I don't know how long we can keep this secret, mi amor. We then flash to Nikki arriving at a family party in her dad's backyard as he celebrates having fucked over Vince that morning.
He's having a whole party for this.
Notably sans weed, because he used all of it.
I'm amazed he has any money left over to throw a party.
We now Quentin Tarantino things up.
Oh no.
With feet?
No.
Because as Nikki sits down to talk to her sister's like, why are you so dressed up? Relax a little. And we then get like 3 minutes of staring at Nikki slowly removing her shoes and socks.
No.
And like rubbing her feet together.
No, I was joking.
Who directed this? And why?
Let's see. Directed by Donald Petrie. Who's also directed How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, as noted earlier, Miss Congeniality, my favorite, Martian.
Grumpy Old Men?
Richie Rich?
Richie Rich?
What? I'm so confused by everything about this. But mostly the Quentin Tarantino shit.
I gotta say, this photo of Donald Petrie does explain a lot, though.
So we focus on her feet, and then we flash back up, and she's talking, and then her mom has been trying to get her set up with somebody. And so her mom's like, look, he's here! And Nikki's like, oh, hey. And the guy replies with, oh, I see you've got the dogs out, while staring lasciviously at her feet.
No, the dogs, like, because your dogs are so tired, but you're making it a sex thing now.
No, he's making the sex thing with feet.
Mackenzie, I'm amazed you managed to get to the end of this movie. I would have tapped out like 5 times before now.
Oh, that's because we're made of stronger stuff than you are, kid.
We've established this.
After the party, Nikki tries to go to Hayden Christensen's house to see if he wants to play soccer.
We're still in Act 2.
We haven't got to the marriage yet.
When are they going to get symbolically married? With pizza!
Don't worry, that's next scene after this. Well, that's 2 scenes after this. Nikki shows up at Hayden Christensen's house with a ball. There's also a tall, sexy stewardess there.
Like a flight attendant?
Like a flight attendant. And she's like, I'm here to see Leo, who is my boyfriend. And Nikki's like, oh.
What?
Okay. They buzz the door, and Leo opens the door, and he's like, oh, hey, guys. And the flight attendant's like, why don't you introduce me to your tiny friend? They use a lot of forced perspective to make the flight attendant look giant.
So which Romeo and Juliet character do you think the tall flight attendant is?
Rosaline.
Oh, of course.
I think her name's even Rosa, in fact.
Oh, God.
Thank you.
And Hayden's like, yeah, Rosa, I have some few things to talk to you about. Nikki, I'll meet you later. And this is where he breaks up with Rosa, apparently. Nikki, meanwhile, goes to complain to her sister about Hayden's dating this tall, hot blonde. And now we flash the marriage scene, which are the grandparents back in Starbucks. They've got 30 empty cups in front of them.
What?
That's a lot of coffee.
Implying they've had a lot of coffee.
That's so much fucking coffee.
That's so much coffee. Were they grandes?
They were ventis, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, no.
And Grandpa grasps Grandma's hand, and he says, with this cup of coffee,
wait,
I ask you to marry me.
This isn't Romeo and Juliet.
This is Romeo and Juliet.
Those are grandpas.
The grandpa and grandma. And the grandma goes, oh, you couldn't have chosen a better place. Yes. Yes. Everybody in the Starbucks stands up and claps.
Oh, God.
No. What? No. How? What? No.
One of the employees, in fact, comes around the counter and is like jumping up and down and clapping.
I don't think you should encourage anything to happen after that much coffee, besides a nap.
And maybe a very long trip to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the marriage scene.
And that's Act 2?
That's Act 2.
Damn.
Act 3. Benvolio and Mercutio, both Montagues, meet Tybalt, Capulet. Tybalt attempts to provoke Romeo into fighting. Mercutio fights Tybalt and is killed. Romeo then kills Tybalt. Aeschylus, the Prince of Verona, banishes Romeo from Verona, threatening death should he ever return. Juliet learns of Romeo killing Tybalt, and despite being torn between her loyalty for her family and Romeo, mourns her husband Romeo's banishment. Romeo learns of the banishment orders, realizes he will not be able to see Juliet again. Friar Lawrence suggests Romeo go to Juliet's bedchamber to comfort his wife. Capulet, who does not know of Romeo and Juliet's marriage, decides that the marriage of Juliet to Paris must now proceed, bidding his wife to make Juliet aware of Paris's love for her. The day of the marriage has been decided. It will be Thursday. We learn that Romeo has spent the night with Juliet. Juliet is now already secretly married to Romeo, learns that she is to marry Paris. She tries to fight her father's wishes, failing to dissuade him. Juliet decides to commit suicide if all else fails.
You know, if all else fails.
All else fails. I should note that mine, much like Kit, just kind of crams the last 3 acts into one thing, so I will do my best to separate things.
So West Side Story. The Jets and these Sharks are going to have their brawl tonight. They sing this great song of like a medley. This is like our climax of the first half of the stage show. So you have like the Jets, the Sharks are all singing this medley about how they're going to have their day. Anita is ready to hang out with Bernardo afterwards, and bang, she's doing great. Tony and Anita both sing little bits of Tonight because surely everything is going to be fine here.
Everything's going to be
fine.
absolutely fine.
Everything's going to be great. This is all just going to be a fisticuffs. We'll laugh about this later. The Jets and the Sharks meet up under the highway. Bernardo and Ice start circling each other, and Tony arrives to try to get them to stop. Bernardo taunts and tries to fight Tony because that's the guy he really wants to kill here. But Tony keeps dodging back and trying to stand down. Bernardo starts calling him a chicken. Bernardo starts to pull out like another thing, like a racist thing against Polish immigrants, which causes Riff to punch Bernardo in the face. Their eyes meet. Riff takes off his jacket and they pull switchblades on each other. So the gallant fist fight is gone now. That's off the table.
That's off the table. No.
Oh my god.
They start trying to stab each other with the switchblades. Tony tries to pull Riff off of Bernardo because Riff has gotten Bernardo on the floor. Riff has got his arm raised to stab him. That's when Tony pulls Riff off. And then Bernardo takes advantage of the confusion to stab Riff, like right in one of the organs where everything's going to bleed out real quick. There's this shock on Bernardo's face as he looks at his hand that is now covered in blood. You get the feeling that, I mean, he wanted to stab him, but he didn't necessarily want to kill him, and he's definitely never killed anybody before, and oh, fuck. And well, Riff stands there stunned. Slowly, he turns around, hands Tony his knife, and then collapses dead to the ground, like instantly. In a fit of rage, Tony stabs Bernardo, who... So, remember when I said he was kind of the Tybalt?
This is where he's Tybalt.
Yeah. The sirens start wailing, the Jets and the Sharks scatter. Tony is left behind, he struggles to his feet, he reaches for Riff. He tries to shake Bernardo, he looks at the bloody knife at his hand, and he calls out Maria's name in Wales. One of the Sharks, who is a character whose name is anybody's, they're a character who I don't have time to get into, but who's extremely important, and there's going to be a lot of essays written about them, /her/him. Anybody's has some gender going on. I'm just going to use them for the sake of just catch all here. Anybody's grabs the knife, tries to pull Tony away, but Tony, who's seen in the spotlight, so like the cops obviously can see him, but he also scatters as well. Meanwhile, Maria is sitting on the roof, waiting for Tony, waiting for the conflict to be over and everything to be fine. It's going great. She dances to herself because she's just so excited and in love. The door opens to the rooftop, and she's like, oh, Tony, oh, it's Chino. Oh, Chino's covered in blood. Chino, what happened? And Chino is like, something happened. Maria's like, oh, but is Tony all right? And Chino's like, no, he killed your brother.
Oh, boy.
Maria pursues him down the stairs as Chino runs out, and like the whole building, which is all full of other Puerto Ricans in this community, start realizing that Bernardo is dead. And everybody starts like sobbing. Maria goes to her room, has a small altar, prays, begs for it to be her instead, for it to not be true. And then Tony appears in her window. She calls him a killer, beats her fists against his chest, and then collapses into his arms and sobs. And Tony, to his credit, is like, please forgive me so I can go to the police and turn myself in. And Maria's like, no. Absolutely not. Do not leave me. And then the two lovers decide that they're going to leave, find someplace they can be together. They sing this desperate song called Somewhere about just, we'll get to go big farm upstate. We can run around and...
It always works out when two lovers decide to run away together. Nothing bad happens.
Yeah, exactly. We're just going to go to a big farm upstate where we can run and dance and play around with all the other Romeo and Juliet star-crossed lovers. The cops are driving around. The Jets hide from the police. They talk about the fight. They have these arguments about how, like, repressed all of their feelings are. They can't even grieve properly. One of them's like, I'm crying and I don't want anybody to see me. I was like, well, why are you crying? 'Cause Riff is dead. Riff got stabbed to death, my dudes. But they're like, well, you can't feel sad. You have to just get angry and do violent things. They have this great number called Cool, which has a lot of furious dancing with it, as Ice, the lieutenant, who is supposed to fight Bernardo, tells all the Jets to calm the fuck down before the cops start asking questions. He starts getting them into, like, a snapping from the beginning, as there's all these bursts and fits of, like, this toxic fury where they just want to kill something. He's like, no, you calm the fuck down, I swear to God. Which is also great, because in the original stage show, this and the one about Officer Krumke, those two songs were actually switched in where they took place. Cool was in the first act, and Officer Krumke, this wacky little ditty, is here in Act 2 instead. When they started doing the film version, there's a note in the Wikipedia page that says, like, Sondheim actually really hated where they took place in some of the things, so he was like, you switched these two, I swear to God.
And it works better.
It works so much better. Oh my God. By the way, the curtain does come down in the stage show with two corpses on the stage, and that was part of the hard sell because musicals were not sad at the time. The Jets have all, like, kind of banded together. They are just going to try and handle this, be cool, try not to do anything that gets them arrested. And anybody's pops up. They said that they've been sneaking around the Sharks' territory and found out that Chino, who, remember, is our Paris, who is the one who is supposed to be, like, getting with Maria, but there was no spark there. Chino is out looking for Tony, and Chino has a gun. And the Jets decide that, well, they have to scatter. They have to find Tony before Chino does. They all go to the four winds of the city, essentially. They all break up to try and find Tony first before Chino finds him. And where is Tony? Oh, don't worry. He's just in bed with Maria. 'Cause,
Listen, it's the last place where they look for him.
It's the last place they'd look. Tony has his shirt off. Maria is still completely clothed, but they are lying in her bed in such a way where this is the Hays Code, so this is the clearest way we can say they banged. Anita comes back to the apartment. She's wearing this black and red shawl over her head and shoulders. Obviously, she's in mourning. She calls for Maria because, remember, Bernardo's dead. That was her boyfriend. She was in love with him. And now it's just her and Maria, essentially, because while Maria's parents are, like, existent, they are not a part of this narrative at all. They are a couple of off-screen lines. So she's like, hey, Maria, are you in there? Maria's door is locked. She's like, what the hell's going on? Anita overhears Maria kissing Tony, telling him, don't open the door, because Tony is, of course, like, okay, let's let her in. We'll be friends. Still. Tony, no. Tony, honey.
Maria, established morosexual.
Oh, he's stupid. She likes that in a man.
Attracted to dumbasses and dumbasses exclusively.
So Maria and Tony agree to run away together. They're going to meet at the bus station. Doc will help Tony out by getting him some money, helping him flee town, because again, he's our Friar Lawrence. And that is the moment when Anita realizes, like, she overhears Tony. She hears this whole plan. She's like, oh, God damn it. And finally, Maria opens the door just as Tony leaps out the window and Anita stares in. And that's kind of, I'm breaking the scene here in half, but that's kind of where my Act 3 ends.
All right, so my Act 3 is about, I would say, 10 minutes of the movie, maybe. We had our symbolic wedding in terms of, like, the dance scene. They then proceed to go up and talk to DMX, and he's talking about the fact that, like, yeah, he's holding out. Yeah, he knows Isaac wants to buy the club. No, he's not selling the club. At which point, Mac shows up with a bunch of guys and a bunch of guns, and they shoot DMX out of his office window and kill him, and then proceed to knock out Jet Li. And when Jet Li comes around, he is in symbolic exile in terms of he's being held captive in Isaac's warehouse, where Maurice is there taunting him. He then proceeds to beat the shit out of Maurice and basically everybody else in the warehouse, at one point using a severed fire hose as a meteor hammer. It fucking rules. And then he drags Maurice out of the building's window and then uses him to break his fall as he lands on a car. Maurice has a rough fucking time in this movie.
Ouch.
And that's my Act 3.
My Act 3 is also relatively short, but boy is it full.
Oh boy.
It starts with Leo meeting Nikki after he kicks out the air hostess. Leo's like, I am making you dinner, and there are like 10 pizzas on the counter. And she's like,
just get into calzones. Start serving salads.
And she's like, wow, you made all these? And he's like, this is just the appetizer.
No.
I don't think you need more than 10 pizzas for 2 people.
You don't need more than, like, maybe 3 pizzas for 2 people if you're all in your 20s and really hungry.
Yeah. She says, you should start selling this pizza. And he's like, out of your restaurant. And he's like, no, my dad doesn't want the menu to ever change. I figure once he retires, I will open my own pizza business.
No, stop opening pizza businesses. Pivot to something else.
The market is clearly saturated.
There are too many pizzas in this neighborhood.
She goes home, and then she gets like a pebble thrown at her window, and she opens it up, and he's got a ladder leaning against the wall.
Oh, come on.
And he climbs up carrying another pizza.
Where do you get a pebble on a street in Toronto?
And he hands her the pizza.
What the fuck?
And he's like, be ready early in the morning. And she goes, for what? And he goes, be ready. And then he just climbs back down.
What?
What?
So, yeah, he just climbs up, hands her pizza, says, be ready in the morning, and leaves.
That's the symbolic wedding night? That's the symbolic fight. In this movie full of weird, horny innuendo, the symbolic fucking is him handing her a pizza.
No. We've already done the symbolic fucking was soccer, right?
Hold on.
No, that was the symbolic dance.
No, wait, the symbolic wedding was the old people at Starbucks.
The old people at Starbucks was the wedding. The fucking is happening soon. You just gotta wait.
Oh, God.
Oh, it's gonna be pizza related, isn't it?
It's going to be, unfortunately, pizza related.
They're going to talk about a pizza and use sexual innuendos, right? Am I right? Is that what happens?
We then get a big montage.
Oh, boy.
This pizza is exactly like a penis going into a vagina somehow.
They are going around Toronto doing things, and lots of soccer, of course.
Like, are they showing us, like, Toronto, like, business establishments?
Yeah, basically.
Like, places so you know it's in Toronto?
Basically, yes. There's, like, the Toronto Tower or whatever it's called.
CN Tower.
Yeah, the CN Tower, that stuff.
Now that Honest Ed's is closed, I'm not sure. There's many other signature Toronto businesses you could go to aside from, like, a random pizza.
Pizza?
See? Exactly. There's too much pizza in the market.
They end up playing soccer in the rain, after which... Again, yeah.
Do they ever play soccer when it's dry outside?
Apparently not. After which they go to Leo's house to change, and they change in front of each other, you know, like best friends do.
Okay, best friends only change in front of each other if it's one of those lesbian fanfics where they're desperately horny, but they're best friends.
I will say that historically, me and my best friends have gotten changed in front of each other, but also there was absolutely a homoerotic element to it.
Right as they get down to their underwear, they start flirting, yes, partly pizza inspired.
No.
No.
And they fall onto the bed, and begin making out. And then we fade cut to the grandparents waking up in bed.
No!
Naked.
No.
We get a lot of post-boning grandma and grandpa talk.
Great. Terrific.
In very bad Italian accents. Like,
absolutely something I was hoping for from this movie.
It's incredible. It's a good everything still works here. Things like that.
Mamma mia.
Oh, God.
That's a good,
Wait, I just connect. Andrea Martin is the grandma, isn't she?
Yes, she is.
Oh, no. Now I'm just hearing her doing this.
Yeah, imagine her saying, it's an incredible, it's a good everything still works here.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly how she'd deliver it, too. That's an SCTV sketch is what that is.
when the dick hits your eye like a big pizza pie. That's the movie.
And then Grandpa rolls over to, like, face her, and she looks down at the covers and goes, again? Already?
No! No!
So he has got a boner. Grandpa got a boner.
No!
And then we flash to Nikki, who's getting a phone call. She's now wearing a Vince's Pizza shirt that she stole from Hayden. And she goes upstairs to answer her phone call, and it's from female Gordon Ramsay.
I forgot female Gordon Ramsay was in this movie.
God.
Ostensibly, Nikki's supposed to be working on her menu. They're FaceTiming. And female Gordon Ramsay's opening line is, "Are you wearing a pizza shop shirt? No cook of mine will ever sully herself with pizza."
What, did she not say, like, my family are restaurant owners, they own a pizza shop, they're Italian-Canadian, they own a pizza shop?
Apparently not.
They own a pizza shop, so I am going to know a lot about how to make pizza? Did she hide that somehow?
She hid it, apparently. Female Gordon Ramsay is like, your hair looks like you've been shagging, which it doesn't, it just looks like her hair has the rest of this film. And then female Gordon Ramsay goes, is penis more important than my restaurant?
Did she really say the word penis?
Yes, she did.
Did she really say penis?
She really said penis.
She really said penis?
She really said penis.
Not like a euphemism, not like...
No, just penis directly.
Okay, so this lady, is this like a working class accent, or is this like a posh accent that she has?
Extremely posh.
Okay. That might excuse her calling it penis. But only barely.
She then hangs up on Nikki and says, you better get me your menu soon.
I mean, I just think if you're a British character in a movie like this, you would call it like Spotted Dick or something. You would make some kind of British food-based penis metaphor.
She then hangs up on Nikki, who is left looking distraught because she has not worked on the menu at all. Hayden Christensen walks out and is like, I'm going to kill the younglings, or more like, what's the problem? And Emma Roberts / Nikki is like, I'm sorry, I can't do this. This was a one-night fling, and then runs off into the night.
God, I forgot this was Emma Roberts.
And that's the end of my act.
I can't do this. I have to work on my menu.
I have to work on my menu. Act 4. Paris reveals that the wedding will occur on Thursday. Juliet is called to Paris. Friar Lawrence tells Juliet to take a potion simulating death, allowing Romeo to take her away, unopposed, to Mantua, since everyone will think she's dead at the Capulet's ancient vault or burial ground. Capulet makes plans for Juliet's wedding. Juliet, who has decided to drink Friar Lawrence's potion, no longer opposes the wedding, delighting Capulet. Hearing the good news, Capulet, who is keen to have Juliet marry Paris, decides to move the wedding forward. It will now be on Wednesday, not Thursday. Juliet succeeds in sleeping alone, which allows her to take the potion in privacy. Juliet worries about the friar's intentions before the potion takes effect, and she falls asleep. Lady Capulet and the nurse are busy making preparations for the wedding. It is 3 o'clock in the morning, and now Capulet, hearing music announcing parents' arrival, tells the nurse to go wake Juliet. As Capulet's learned that their daughter Juliet is dead, the wedding preparations are changed to those of a funeral.
So West Side Story. This section, real quick disclaimer, content warnings for musical version, but actually pretty grisly. There's some sexual assault in here.
For a second, I thought you were going to say content warning for musicals, and I was like, it's a bit late for that.
Yeah. Okay, so Anita has just walked in on Maria, realizes that Tony and Maria are and have been together, and Anita sings a song begging her to dump him because he killed your brother. He just stabbed your brother.
Don't f*** the guy who killed your brother.
Within like 12 hours, within the last 24 hours, he stabbed your brother to death. Are you serious? And Maria argues that, yes, my love is extremely powerful. It is so all-encompassing that I can't even help it. She sings a song called I Have a Love, and it does the thing where, like, Her argument wins over Anita, who compares it to her love with Bernardo, and they sort of both sing the last bit of the song together while holding hands and weeping because she's been sort of talked into this. And Anita says, okay, fine, all right, okay, I'll help you, but also you need to know that Chino is looking for Tony with a gun. You have to do something about that. But before they can do anything about it, Schrenk arrives, the cop who is like, he tries to question Maria about the dance last night. It's like, hey, who did you go with? It seemed like there was some kind of altercation about you dancing with a boy. Who was that? And Anita eventually will say like, oh yeah, no, it was another Puerto Rican boy. It's not a problem. Don't worry about it. But before she does that, she sends Anita to go to Doc's store for her because she's supposed to meet Tony there so they can run off together. And she says, Anita, can you go get my special aspirin? Please tell Doc that I've been detained from picking up my aspirin. And Anita's just like, ugh, fine, okay. Puts on her black shawl, leaves. Meanwhile, at Doc's shop, the Jets have gathered. Anybody's found Tony, hid him in the shop's cellar. They say that Doc is upstairs getting some money together for Tony so he can skip town. And Anita walks into the shop and freezes just as the Jets are all telling each other that if they see any Puerto Ricans, Chino or otherwise, that they are going to hurt them.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Anita asks for Doc, and the Jets threaten her, and there's this awful, discordant version of Maria's earlier song talking about American idealism in the background. America. She tries to get to Tony. She tries to tell him a message, but they think that she's trying to find Tony to tell Chino where he is. And the whole gang of sharks says some incredibly racist shit to her and then assaults her. And there's kind of an attempted rape where they're all on top of her. Doc stops the Jets. Anita climbs off the floor, disheveled, puts her shawl back on. She's like, Bernardo was right. And then in her rage, she tells the Jets, you know what? Chino found out about Maria and Tony, and he shot Maria dead in a rage. You will never see Maria again. She leaves. Doc tells the Jets to leave. And then after hearing this news about apparently how our Juliet is dead, he goes down to the basement where Tony is. And that's my act break for Act 4.
Oh boy.
This is the grim one. This is the one that's like, oh, Romeo and Juliet is a tragedy. Holy shit.
Yeah, now time for a Hong Kong action movie. So, back in the plot where everything is weirdly focused on an NFL franchise deal.
And punching.
Chu Sing brings Vince all the deeds for the arena deal that he needs to deliver. He gets paid and he leaves. As he's on his way out, he passes Isaac on his way in. Isaac shows up and delivers his deeds, but he turns down the check and instead he says, I want to be the NFL's first black owner. I'm one of your business partners now. Vince is like, you're not going to be one of our partners because Vince's whole, it's a bunch of white guys. Mac sees all this play out, says, hang on, and goes to Isaac and says, this is kind of bullshit. And Isaac keeps playing up, no, I want to go legit. This is my chance to go legit. And Mac is finally like, yeah, I would much rather rule the streets than whatever the hell this is. So I'm going to turn on you now. I'm going to take the deeds away from you. Also, I have your daughter at gunpoint, so you cooperate. This quickly degenerates into a shootout. Vince gets away with the deeds. Mac goes after him. Isaac gets shot, but he does manage to shoot the guys holding Alia. Mac chases Vince up to the roof where he's trying to escape via helicopter. He manages to shoot the suitcase out of Vince's hands and it falls back to the roof of the building. As Mac is gathering up all these deeds and putting them back in the suitcase, a foot appears in front of him and oh, Jet Li is here. Jet Li asks why Mac killed his brother, why he killed Poe. Mac says, oh no, I didn't kill Poe. All the deaths on the Chinese side of things were handled, quote, in-house. Jet Li clearly knows what that means. And then Mac distracts him by kicking the suitcase up into his face, pulls a gun, and says, sorry, Romeo, you gotta die.
That's the name of the movie, basically. He said the thing.
It's more or less the thing.
So the NFL thing is the Juliet Paris marriage?
Yes. You can hear the uncertainty in my voice, I'm sure. Anyway, as Mac is about to shoot Jet Li, we hear a gunshot, only Jet Li has not been shot. Alia has showed up and shot Mac. And then Alia and Jet Li, having killed Mac and recovered the deeds, go down to check on her dad, who is severely wounded, but I think he's going to live, but we don't see him again in this movie, so we never find out whether he lived. And Jet Li turns to Alia and says, oh, stay with him. I have some things to go take care of, and goes and runs off. So that's Act 4 for Romeo Must Die.
Act 4 for Little Italy. Nikki, distressed from having to break up with her childhood crush Hayden Christensen, goes to Sal's Pizza to talk to her mom. This conversation I am just going to recount basically word for word.
Uh-oh.
Mom, don't you ever want to leave? Mom goes, leave? Little Italy? No. I've never wanted to leave Little Italy.
That's the movie name. The movie name is Little Italy.
Nikki goes, how do you and Dad do it? You fight all the time, but you're clearly in love. Her mom pauses. She thinks for a good long moment, and then she goes, he's really good at sex.
No!
Dear God.
No!
No.
What?
No.
No!
I refuse. Mackenzie,
What?
no.
No! That can't be it! No! That's really?
That can't be the line, Mackenzie.
I'm glad I could bring you all in on that.
That's the line?
God.
That's
Are
the
you
That's
line.
the line, Mackenzie?
That's the line.
Mackenzie, I hate this.
Mackenzie! They could have said anything. I would have even taken a pizza-based sexual innuendo at that juncture.
He's really good at sex.
No!
Nikki's like, is that all it's all that's needed? And her mom says, sometimes you take what you have.
Jesus Christ.
Which is good at sex.
He's good at sex.
Not even like we work together or like we have our differences, but that's what makes us better. Just sex.
Her dad then comes in and they start arguing, and her dad's like, why does this pasta sauce taste weird? And her mom's like, it's because Nona hasn't added her secret ingredient yet.
The weed?
Is it weed?
And he goes, Nona hasn't even told me her secret ingredient, and I've asked her about it and run this restaurant for years.
It's weed.
Wife mom is like, well, maybe she'll tell you before she dies. And then they wander off into another room.
Well, that scene just sort of stops.
He just sort of stops.
Yeah, that scene doesn't really end so much as it just kind of stops, huh?
Nona then walks in, and she walks over to the pasta sauce, and she looks around and looks at Nikki and goes, nobody else is around, are they? And Nikki's like, it's just me and you, Nona. And Nona goes, come here, I want to show you a secret. So instantly we get payoff.
And then she spits in the pot.
And then she pulls out 2 anchovies and drops them in. And says, I put anchovies in the pasta.
Okay.
And that's it.
That's normal.
That's normal. That's it.
That's just puttanesca.
That's just puttanesca. That's normal.
That's like 90%
That's a real
of
recipe
sauces.
that exists.
Yeah.
My pizza sauce has anchovies in it. Nona's then like, by the way, family, I'm taking you all out for dinner tonight. They're like, why, Grandma? And she's like, because I want to have dinner with my family. Shut up and get dressed.
You know, the fact that it's Andrea Martin saying a lot of these lines makes them so much more tolerable, now that I know.
Flash over to Vince's, where Grandpa basically does the same thing. He's like, I'm taking you all out for dinner tonight. They're all like, why? And he's like, shut the fuck up and put on something nice. We then go to a Toronto Indian restaurant.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Where the walls are covered in pictures of the Kama Sutra.
Wait, like...
You know, I wouldn't put this past Toronto. I wouldn't put it past Toronto for this to be a real place.
Like the sex book.
Like the sex book, yes.
They went to the horniest Indian restaurant they could to announce that the old people are going to bang.
Yes.
That they have banged.
Have banged. Will keep banging.
And the music playing is indianmusic.mp3.
No.
So the death here, the death of Tybalt is more just sort of like the audience death.
Yeah.
The death of hope.
We have all died. We are Tybalt.
Yes. We are Tybalt. It's interactive theater.
They finally arrive in the room and realize that the rival pizza group is there. And the grandparents are like, everybody shut up and sit down. We have an announcement. So everybody grudgingly sits down. And the grandparents are like, we are in love. We are getting married. And you all have to fucking deal with it and stop this feud.
God, when you said that there were 4 people that fell in love, I was sure it was going to be like each character's best friend. but no.
Not grandparents. There is some joking back and forth, which also includes, why did you choose this restaurant to tell us this? And they said, because we wanted to get ideas for future bed exploits while gesturing at the walls.
Oh, God.
No! No, stop. You can just get the book from anywhere. Don't have a tikka masala while looking at sex pictures, like in a public restaurant. You save that for home.
There's some more bickering between the dads, and eventually the dads are like, we need to compete against each other. And it's like, but we've been banned from all the competitions. They go, we have, but Nikki and Leo have not. And they point at Hayden Christensen and Emma Roberts.
No.
Oh, God.
And they're like, we don't want to do that. And they go back and forth, and then they joke about their soccer skills. And Leo's like, I always let you win. And Nikki's like, no, you didn't. I let you win. And then they start bickering, and they're like, maybe we will compete.
I am Tybalt.
And Leo goes, I'm going to smash you. And she goes, you don't smash a pizza. And Leo responds with, you smashed my pizza last night.
Jesus Christ.
No, I take it back. I'm Mercutio, a plague or both your houses. A plague or both your pizzerias.
Which causes Nikki to burst into tears and flee. Smash cut to the pizza competition, which Nikki ties her hair
We
back.
just go straight to the pizza competition from there? No further setup?
Nikki ties her hair back, puts on a chef's hat and chef's coat.
So they just bullied them into the pizza competition. We're doing this like there's no way you're getting me into a pizza competition. No way, no how. I can't believe you got me into the pizza competition.
You know, in the screenplay book, Save the Cat, or it's like when you're doing an exposition or something, make sure something interesting is happening in the background.
Sure.
So while this pizza competition is happening, what do you think is happening in the background?
God dare I say people are making pizzas.
Old people are having sex.
I will have to give it to Annie because this is closer.
Damn it.
Oh, God.
There is a wet t-shirt competition going on.
I didn't want to be right.
There's a wet t-shirt.
Are you bored of looking at people make pizza? Well, don't worry. There might be some boobies in the background. God bless America.
There is both a wet t-shirt and like a wet white shorts competition for men.
No.
No.
No, that's not the same thing. That's not the same thing at all.
No.
I don't want that.
Eventually, our Act 4 ends.
Eventually.
With the judges trying both Nikki and Leo's pizza. And after much consideration, they declare Leo the winner. Nikki flings off her coat hat and goes and instantly hails a cab to go to the airport. And that's the end.
Why can't at least one of them at least pretend to die? Can't we at least pretend that one of them is dead for a while just to stop this, please?
Act 5. In Mantua, Romeo learns of Juliet's death, deciding to risk his life by returning to Verona at once to see Juliet one last time. Romeo also buys some poison from a local apothecary. Friar John explains to Friar Lawrence that his letter informing Romeo that Juliet is not dead did not reach Romeo. Friar Lawrence tries again to inform Romeo of his plan and heads off to the Capulet burial chamber where Juliet will soon awaken. Paris mourns his bride that never was. Romeo arrives, opening Juliet's coffin to look at his love one last time. Paris fights Romeo, whom he believes desecrating Juliet's grave, and Paris dies. Romeo placing him beside Juliet. Romeo takes his poison, kisses Juliet, and dies. Friar Lawrence arrives too late. Juliet now awakens, asking for Romeo. Friar Lawrence leaves, leaving Juliet alone. Juliet kisses Romeo and stabs herself and dies. The prince, Capulets, and Montague arrive, Balthazar and Friar Lawrence explaining everything. Aeschylus scolds the two families, who finally end their feud. The play ends with the prince summarizing this tragic love story.
Okay, West Side Story. This one's gonna be bummers. I don't think this is surprising anyone.
No, and it's very funny that you do the serious one and then Mackenzie and I do our bullshit.
Golly. So Doc goes down into the basement where Tony is waiting for Maria. He even is like, oh, is that Maria coming down the stairs? No, it's my boss. He hands Tony the money, and Tony is like, me and Maria, we're going to get on a bus. We're going to go to the country, and you know what we're going to do? We're going to have lots of kids, and it's going to be great. And Doc actually smacks him. tells him to wake up, and then starts weeping, demanding, like, is this the only way to get through to you? Do what you all do, bust like a hot water pipe? And tells Tony that Maria is dead. And Tony at first can't believe it. Then he's distraught. Then he busts out of the cellar, yelling out into the dark streets for Chino to come and get him. He briefly runs into Anybody's, who tries to get Tony to shut up, rejoin the gang. Tony rejects them. Tony runs to that playground blacktop where they had a scuffle in the beginning of the movie, where he briefly stopped to contemplate how in love he was earlier. Yelling for Chino, making a ruckus, banging on the chain link fence, begging for him to come shoot him too, until Maria arrives, wearing that red dress that she always dreamed about. Sees him, and they run for each other. They have to get around these various parts of the blacktop. Just before they embrace, Chino arrives, shoots. There's this huge loud bang, and Tony collapses into Maria's arms. And the Jets and the Sharks arrive. They gather around. And Tony is looking up at Maria, shaking, saying that he didn't believe hard enough. And Maria holds him, sings this quiet, hesitant reprise of Somewhere, that song that they sang earlier about just being able to go someplace together where it will all be fine. There's absolutely no musical backing this at all. Like, there is no anything besides just the tragedy of what's happening. The music is gone. Love is dead. Tony dies in her arms. The Jets and the Sharks both start to approach. And Maria stands and says in this harder, deeper voice than we've ever heard her to stay back. She just marches up to Chino, holds out her hand wordlessly. Chino gives her the gun. She demands to know how many bullets are left and points it at the Jets and the Sharks. And basically says that they all killed Riff and Bernardo and Tony with hate. And now she can kill because now she has hate too. Then lets the gun drop and falls sobbing. And that's essentially the last line of dialogue in this whole film. Schrank arrives, he picks up the gun. Maria has one last line when she shouts, tells him not to touch Tony. She looks between the Jets and the Sharks, and they just approach one by one, wordlessly. She kisses Tony. The Jets pick up Tony's body. 2 Sharks leap in to help them pick him up. And then we basically have a funeral procession of 2 Sharks and 2 Jets carrying Tony's body out of the playground. One of the Jets, one of the ones who's been menaced this whole film, lays Maria's shawl over her head like a death shroud. And the Jets and the Sharks leave together, mixing up their group as they slowly scatter. Maria folds her shawls over her shoulders and she walks behind the corpse. And eventually it's only Chino and the cops left, and they head towards the cop car in this wide shot far away from everything as we watch everyone slowly leave. And that's it. That's the end. That's West Side Story.
So what about martial arts, Kit?
So fucking Romeo Must Die. Ugh. Okay, so back in Hong Kong action movie land. Jet Li has deduced that Kai, our Benvolio, killed Poe to keep him quiet about all the bombings and murders which Poe found out about. So he goes to his dad's house to confront Kai about it, and they've got this huge fight scene. There's a dark mirror of their bout earlier. Jet Li ends up getting his hands horribly, horribly burned on like this brazier out behind the house. And then there's this scene where like he rips the sleeves off his shirt, or like he rips up some cloth that's available, I don't remember, and like wraps up his horribly burned hands before kicking the shit out of Kai. We do get our third X-ray shot of the movie because Jet Li kicks the top of Kai's head so hard that his skull compresses down onto his spine, killing him more or less instantly with a cervical snap. Jet Li, having killed Kai, then goes into the house to confront his father about ordering Poe's death, remarking that, like, oh yeah, you killed my brother the way that you would run over a dog in the street, etc. Chu is like, are you going to kill me? Jet Li's like, nah, I'm going to let fate deal with you. I'm not going to kill you, but I'm not going to help you escape. The cops can deal with you, or the other members of our syndicate can deal with you, whichever one gets to you first. So Jet Li turns to leave the room. He stops in the doorway. We hear a gunshot, and it fakes you out and thinking that, like, oh, Chu has shot Jet Li. And there's like this moment where he's just standing there poleaxed, but then he turns and we see that Chu has shot himself instead.
Damn.
Yeah. Jet Li heads outside. Alia is there with a bunch of cops. Alia runs up. They hug. There was apparently 2 versions of this scene, one with the hug and one with a big damn kiss. There was a rumor that this did not test well with audiences because it was interracial, but that appears to be mostly bullshit. Jet Li's explanation for it is that apparently in the 2 test screenings, he himself and the producers thought, okay, this guy just witnessed his own father's suicide. It's kind of weird for him to be kissing the girl immediately afterwards, so they decided to go with the hug.
It's not quite the time.
It's not quite the time for this. So instead of the kiss, they do a hug, and then they walk off together hand in hand down the street as the cops roll up to deal with the absolute carnage of this house. And that's Romeo Must Die. And there's an Aaliyah song. there's an Aaliyah song over the end credits.
So,
all right, Mac.
Pizza time!
Pizza time, Mac.
What's the pizza sex?
We watch Emma Roberts being cabbied to the airport. Meanwhile, there's a big celebration going on with Vince's family holding up a massive trophy that's literally like 4 feet tall. And Hayden Christensen looks thoughtful, and he picks up a slice of his own pizza, and he takes a bite. And then he goes, wait, give the trophy back.
What?
And his dad's like, no.
Did they mix up the pizzas?
Yes. And then he's like, no, this wasn't all my pizza. It's my crust. But
oh my God.
Nikki must have put her sauce on it.
No.
Jesus Christ.
And they take a bite. And they're like, oh my God, you're right. This is Sal's sauce, but with Vince's crust.
No, they could only think of like 2 different pizza ingredients that might be combined.
The families talk, and then the wives, sick of not being able to be best friends, go, why did you guys start fighting anyway? Because no one knows but the dads.
What?
And the dads say, it's because of them, and point at the grandparents.
What?
And the grandparents are like, what? And it turns out, back when the dads won that one competition that got them banned from ever competing again, they were told that their pizza won Best Pizza, and they started arguing over what made it the best pizza. Was it the crust or the sauce?
No.
Oh my God.
And that's why they split into 2 separate pizza shops.
Dear God.
So there used to be one pizza shop and then they walled it up?
Yeah. Then they all turn to Hayden. They're like, you know what this means, right? And Hayden's like, what? And they go, you need to go after Nikki and tell her you love her.
Does he? They're like, we know what you have. There's only one thing you have to do.
No, this is 2018. You can't do the thing at the airport where you chase them to the gate. It's not allowed anymore.
There's only one thing you can do, Hayden Christensen. Here's a lightsaber.
Kill the younglings.
You gotta kill the younglings. It's the only way to get her back.
You gotta do it, my guy.
She's pregnant with your twins, and she's going to just sort of look at them, give them names, and then say, well, I don't need these anymore, and die. I'm just too sad. The robot doctor's gonna say Nikki died of a broken heart at the airport.
Nikki is stuck in the security line. She keeps getting
saved by post 9/11 security practice.
She keeps getting caught in the line, either needing to remove something, like she needs to remove her shoes again so we can see her toesies.
Are we back at the Quentin Tarantino bullshit?
Oh, God. And that means she's also like the worst person at the airport who just doesn't pay attention to what she's actually supposed to take off.
Yes. Then she walks to the metal detector and it gets detected, so she takes off one earring.
No!
Then another.
You gotta take off both earrings, lady.
And then she gets caught again, and then she has to go back and get off a necklace.
God damn it, Nikki!
Then she goes through again and beeps again, and she has to go back and take off a belt.
I hope she dies. I hope this ends with them both dying.
I have been behind this person at the airport. God damn it.
Finally, she managed to successfully get through after removing one at a time, like 20 different things.
Jesus Christ.
Which is right when Hayden Christensen runs up and he shouts across the airport, Nikki!
Oh, happy dagger, this is thy sheath. There rest and let me die.
Nikki turns and she stares at him and he walks up.
Can you imagine if some bitch was taking forever, taking off one earring, then the other earring, then a belt, then her can you imagine somebody taking up this much time at the airport, taking up this much space, hogging all of this, just making this whole line back up, and then she has to do an airport confession with her boyfriend.
And then she doesn't even get on a fucking airplane. I would be on the news.
Everybody in the security line stops to watch this and moves to the side to give them room.
I'm back there holding my shoes with a bin with my laptop out. Waiting.
Your flight leaves in 30 minutes. You don't have fucking time for this.
Nikki walks back and she's like, "Why are you here?" And airport confessions. That's how it goes.
Of course.
And they go back and forth.
Except they picked, like, the middle of the security line, which is the least romantic place to do this.
Yes.
But it is the place where you're most likely to get tased while doing this.
Finally, he confesses, "I love you and I want to grow old making pizza with you. Please stay."
Oh, God.
No.
And Nikki goes, "Yes. Yes." And they fall into each other's arms. Fade. And then we arrive at a bar, and it says, like, a couple months later.
Did she ever make the menu for Lady Gordon Ramsay?
She had an assignment.
So funny enough.
Did she drop out of culinary school? That's really expensive.
Hayden and Nikki are in the bar with female Gordon Ramsay. Female Gordon Ramsay is like, that restaurant just didn't work out. And Nikki's like, "Oh, did Gareth's menu fail?" And she goes, it kind of went the opposite of fail. It came out instead. It was so bad people were vomiting all over the restaurant.
You know we'll fix that in a jiff if you're going to have somebody talking about a restaurant failing is you got to get a guy with a rat on his head. Works every time.
And it's like, "Oh, by the way, here's the pizza Nikki and I made together," and they put it down. Nikki's like, "Well, all you need to do is you need to figure out where you want to go from here, female Gordon Ramsay." And female Gordon Ramsay takes a bite of the pizza, pauses and says, "Are you guys thinking about going international?" And then fade to black.
Have you ever considered putting a rat on your head?
Listen, there's an obvious solution here, and it's putting a rat on your head.
Just put a rat on your head. That's all you need in this restaurant, right? Because it's like, oh, Anton Ego, he's going to invest in your restaurant because he was mean, but now he loves your food. Put a rat on your head. I brought this rat in a jar.
And that's the end.
Just put it on. Let's see how it goes.
Little Italy. I hope you all enjoyed Little Italy.
I did not. Thank you.
I didn't. Not even a little bit, Mackenzie.
Why were there so many sex puns in this?
Why was it so horny?
Why was it so horny? It was about pizza. Why was it pizza horny?
Maybe they should have more horniness, really.
No. I mean, I know it's Romeo and Juliet, so it's built around stupid decisions made while horny, but these were stupid decisions.
Oh, right. And then after female Gordon Ramsay eats the pizza and they decide to open up internationally, there's a dance party and the two Indians get together.
No.
Oh, a dance party ending. That's fun. For never there was a story of more woe than this of Juliet and pizza.
Sorry, Romeo, you gotta die.
He must die. It's in the name.
It's in the name. And then he doesn't.
Can't believe Romeo didn't die when he must.
Can't believe Romeo didn't die in a movie called Romeo Must Die.
It's not called Romeo Mustn't Die.
Annie, what's your final fact?
Did you have you guys heard about this whole West Side Story thing? Have you guys heard about West Side Story? I think it's good. Have you heard about it?
That's the incredibly frustrating thing about things that everybody agrees are good, is that you finally watch them and they are good, but you can't talk to anybody about it because everyone already agrees with you.
It's just like my final fact basically comes down to, it's like, hey, did you know that some classics are classics for a really good reason? Fuck! I watched West Side Story and I had to keep pausing and it took me 4 hours because I had to keep taking notes and taking breaks and stuff. But holy shit, that's a really good movie. God damn it!
It's a really good movie.
Fucking Bernstein at the top of his game. Steven Sondheim knocking it out of the god. Jesus Christ, West Side Story's good. Have you heard about West Side Story? Ah. Kit, what's your final fact?
My final fact is that between this movie and John Wick, If someone you love is ever involved in the death of someone beloved by a badass action hero, just give them up immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Agreed.
Just write that person off. Send the action hero an edible arrangement with a profuse apology and the exact address of the person they're looking for. Like, you're really not getting out of this one.
Yeah, you give that up. You stay out of it. You cut your losses.
Then maybe just move. Maybe just
you know what? You can just do a leave. Hit the bricks.
Yeah.
Mac, what's your final fact?
Maybe a movie can be too horny. But, at least it has pizza in it.
So if a movie is too horny, it has to have pizza in it to balance things out.
It's a real pizza work, you might say.
Oh.
Right, I'm gonna go. For one thing, I'm really craving pizza now, so I gotta order a pizza.
I ordered pizza after watching this. It's in the fridge. I'm gonna go eat it.
Okay, folks, I think that about wraps us up here for Romeo and Two-Liet. Join us next time we do this. I'm thinking it's row 3-0, but we'll see how that one feels next year.
We'll see if we still like that joke a year from now.
Or later. Join us next time, though. The Wolfpack is going to be back talking about Atlantis, which I'm very excited about. That's going to rule.
Talk about how everybody is hot.
God, it's going to be such a long recording, though. God damn it.
Yeah, water.
It's going to be a Wumbo-sized episode, probably. They tend to be. Anyway, Atlantis, the Lost Empire. It's going to rule. I'm looking forward to it. And then after that, we already actually know what it's going to be, but I will tell you afterwards. It will be a surprise, but it is going to be a horse girl movie, but not the way you think. I Will Fight You comes out every 5 weeks. You can download us wherever you find podcasts. It's edited by Lucas Brown of The Math of You. If you would like to support us, you can do that with money. We love having money. We love paying our editors and hosting fees and stuff. It's very useful. Thank you. Patreon.com/thegem for even just $1 a month or $2 if you're straight. We don't make the rules. That's how it works. You can get early access episodes of I Will Fight You, behind the scenes stuff. You can get content from our other shows, Gem Jammer and Date Me Damn It. Date Me Damn It should be back by the time this one comes out.
Yeah! You'll get to watch us play mini games, folks.
So many mini games. You can also find us on social media. We're basically Blue Sky and Tumblr these days, but we also have a Discord server where people can talk about things. There's like a good little group over there. crcpodcast.bisky.social or Crooked Russian Cam. You just search for us. You'll find us, especially on our website, crookedrussiancam.horse or crookedrussiancam.gay. The old .gay horse has links to everything that I'm talking about because I tend to forget what I'm doing halfway through these.
So say we all.
I think I did everything.
You did it.
I think you did.
That's probably everything. Lucas, if I'm forgetting something, can you edit it in?
How about news?
Thank you, Lucas, for making us sound good.
You'd think we would have learned to write this down by now. No.
Never.
Never,
this
ever.
Is always,
not happening.
We have pre-recorded shit for other shows, but not this one. Join us next time for Atlantis. We'll have a fact at that point. Until then, I'm Annie.
I'm Kit.
And another one bites the crust. I'm Matt.
And we have fought you.
Boo!
Sorry, there were some crows gathering auspiciously outside my roof and I needed to take a picture.
That seems fine.
Ooh, they are gossiping.
Yeah. These crows are talking shit about me.
They're talking shit about somebody.
One of them's grooming the other one. They're married.